Chapter 1779. Innocent People. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a smile. Bai Ming Che, are they innocent people? Bai Ming Che shook his head, snatching his invitation and hitting him. They were not innocent at all. Then it's not considered as violating the union. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. Even if it is, you can rest assured that I can protect you. Her brother was the young chief of the Alchemist Guild. It was more than enough to protect Bai Ming Che. You slut. Miss Li couldn't bear it any longer as she released her profound chi and rushed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Bai Ming Che, that little waste, was stupid and slow-witted. If it wasn't for this slut's instigation, how would Bai Ming Che think of poisoning them? First settle this little slut, then settle Bai Ming Che. When Miss Sun saw this, she quickly coordinated with Miss Li and attacked Yi Qing Luo's direction. Profound chi was released. An array of profound chi struck straight towards her. Only 16 years old, mystic profound 4th grade. Not a strong innate talent, but not bad either. She was used to fighting against experts. Meeting this kind of low-level shrimp, Yi Qing Luo had no intention to fight at all. Yi Qing Luo gave a yawn as she lazily evaded the duo's attack. Then, he raised his leg and stomped on their chests. With a bang, the two flew out and fell heavily onto the ground. Ah, pain, pain, pain. Slut, do you know who I am? Do you know who my cousin is? You. How dare you hit me? Just one kick and the two rolled on the ground in pain. The remaining two girls looked at Yi Qing Luo in horror. That slut had only given the two of them a kick. They couldn't even stand up from the pain. They were very clear about Miss Sun and Miss Li's ability. How could they be defeated so easily? The two of them were in shock when they suddenly felt something slapped on their backs. The two of them immediately turned their heads and saw Bai Ming Che covering the medicine bottle in his hand with a serious expression. Miss Zhao and Miss Qian's faces changed. He reached out to touch the place where Bai Ming Che had just patted. You little trash, what did you do to me? Bai Ming Che took a few steps back, raised the bottle in his hand, and said proudly, Don't come near me. This is a bottle of itching powder. I only sprinkled a little on your body. At most, it will only make you itch for a day or two. If you dare to come near me, I will sprinkle the entire bottle of itching powder on you. Itching powder? What the hell was that? If you drink this bottle, you will probably scratch your own skin until it festers, and only death can release you. Bai Ming Che shook the bottle in his hand to show off, deliberately mystifying things. The two women looked at each other. They were all apothecaries. He had never heard of itching powder. It was very obvious that Bai Ming Che was afraid of violating the Oath of Alliance and didn't dare to poison them, so he deliberately lied to them. However, the two of them were about to attack Bai Ming Che. Suddenly, from the depths of his heart, he felt a tickling sensation. It was the kind of itching feeling that came from the bones. The profound energy in their bodies suddenly dissipated amidst this extremely unbearable itch. The two of them couldn't hold it in any longer as they desperately scratched their own skin. But no matter how they scratched, they couldn't stop the itch. On the two of them, there were streaks of blood marks. The clothes on their bodies also became messy under the crazy scratching. The two ladies from the Sun and Li family who were lying on the ground were horrified when they saw the two women, especially when he saw the people around him pointing at the two girls. Chapter 1780. What a joke. They didn't want to be drugged with some tickling powder. Just by looking at the two ladies, they knew that it was definitely not a good feeling. They might as well faint on the ground. Bai Ming Che saw the two madly grabbing at him and stuffed the bottle into his space pocket contentedly. I didn't expect the first time I refined this kind of medicine. It's really effective. As he said, he walked towards the two madly grabbing ladies. The ladies saw him coming and were so scared that they wanted to escape. Take out your invitations. Give me the invitation. Bai Ming Che chased after them. The two ladies were scratching their hearts. How could they outrun Bai Ming Che? After Bai Ming Che caught up, he searched for the invitation on their bodies. But after searching for half a day, he didn't find any invitation on them. We don't have any invitation. We just followed along to join in the fun. Miss Zhao cried like a pear blossom in the rain. After that, Bai Ming-che went over to the two ladies. The two who pretended to faint were not willing to let a man touch them so wantonly. They immediately woke up from the shock. But the result was the same. They didn't have any invitation on them. The crowd was in an uproar. It turned out that these four ladies didn't have any invitation on their own. Seeing that Bai Ming-che had an invitation, they purposely came to find trouble. Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li cried until their eyes were hazy as they huddled together. Bai Ming-che didn't get an invitation, and his face was full of distress. Bai Ming-che, come over here. Suddenly, Yi-Ching Luo spoke. Bai Ming-che immediately went up to her. Miss Yi, here, your invitation. Yi-Ching Luo threw the invitation in her hand into Bai Ming-che's arms. Bai Ming-che caught the invitation and was a little confused, but I didn't get their invitation for you. What do I need their invitation for? Yi-Ching Luo rolled her eyes. Why did she feel that this young man's brain wasn't very good? Bai Ming-che blinked his eyes. But didn't you ask me to give you their invitation? Yi-Ching Luo raised her hand and mercilessly smashed his head. I am telling you, what is called giving you a taste of your own medicine. Bai Ming-che frowned, a little confused. Yi-Ching Luo looked at this rash young man as she helplessly sighed. The only reason she had helped him was because Bai Ming-che had sincerely wanted to help her back in the Alchemy Guild. This young man was pure and innocent, but it was a little too silly. All right, it's going to be my turn soon. You go and queue up too. Yi-Ching Luo looked at the queue in front. There were still 10 over people left, and it would be DMO Xian's turn. Yi-Ching Luo waved her hand as she walked towards the direction of DMO Xian and the others. Her body had just leaned into DMO Xian's embrace. A sharp and cold voice came from behind her. Little girl, don't you know the rules of Jubao Pavilion? You actually want to cut the queue so openly? Cutting the queue? Yi-Ching Luo's brows rose. These words were obviously referring to her. Yi-Ching Luo turned her head and looked towards the direction where the voice came from. A plump middle-aged man dressed in a luxurious brocade robe walked over, escorted by a dozen guards. Sun family's young miss saw that man and immediately climbed up from the ground. Eldest uncle, you're finally here. Sure, is about to be bullied till she can't face anyone. The middle-aged man glanced sideways at the disheveled Sun family's young miss, and the expression on his face sunk slightly. Chapter 1781. The middle-aged man released a powerful aura. His cold and sinister eyes stared coldly at Yi-Ching Luo. When the people around him saw this, they couldn't help but shrink their necks and look away. Someone in the crowd recognized the middle-aged man and whispered, "Is that Prime Minister's son of the East Billow continent? He actually came to participate in the auction." Prime Minister's son? He is the Prime Minister of the Eastern continent. I'm afraid this little girl is doomed. The people in the queue were all discussing. However, after recognizing Prime Minister's son, he did not immediately approach him to curry favor with him. These people were all shrewd people. He spent most of his time among the upper class. Naturally, he would not easily choose a side. This girl in red had a noble and elegant temperament. Every smile and frown was captivating, yet it caused others to not dare to have any profane thoughts in their hearts. Furthermore, even after knowing that the other party was Zhao Qian's granddaughter and the young miss of the four clans, he still showed no signs of fear. It could be seen that the young lady's background was not inferior to those for young ladies. He just didn't want to talk about this girl. She then turned to look at the young man, who looked like an idiot. She had just heard the four young ladies say the words Alchemy Union. The Alchemy Union. That youth was from the Alchemy Union. Even if the monarch of the Eastern continent came, they wouldn't dare to pick a side easily. Hearing those discussions behind her, Yi-Ching Luo's slender brows rose as she looked at Prime Minister Sun with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Oh, then, Treasure Gathering Pavilion is the place for your Sun family to behave atrociously. You. Prime Minister Sun's face was filled with rage, his face filled with dignity. Little girl, this old man is not going to argue with you. This Treasure Gathering Pavilion has its own rules. You cutting the queue is a violation of the rules. Yi-Ching Luo touched her chin as a crafty arc appeared in her eyes. Did I cut the queue? How come I don't know? She then covered her mouth in shock, her eyes filled with innocence. So Prime Minister's son has eyes of 1,000 miles and saw me cutting the queue from 1,000 miles away. So he specially rushed over to teach me the rules of Jubao Pavilion? The people in the queue could not help but laugh out loud. This young lady was indeed not someone to be trifled with. It was obvious that she was mocking Prime Minister's son for trying to bully her and deliberately make things difficult for her. He was also mocking Prime Minister's son for being disrespectful. A person from the East Water Continent actually came to interfere in the matters of the treasure-gathering pavilion. Prime Minister's son's face darkened. He strode towards Yi Qing Luo with a burst of valiant pressure, pressing down on Yi Qing Luo's nerves from all directions. A pair of sinister eyes, revealing a biting, cold warning light, trying to use his own aura to scare Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo was all smiles as she raised her head to look at Prime Minister's son, who was blowing his beard and glaring at her. "That's right, Prime Minister's son. Are you here to take part in the auction? Then you have to take out your invitation first to prove that you are someone with an invitation and status." Prime Minister's son furrowed his brows as a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. He couldn't help but feel suspicious. This little girl, who exactly was she, to think that Zhang Xian was so fearless in the face of his oppressive might? She could even tease him with a smile. Ridiculous! A guard behind Prime Minister's son scolded. Prime Minister's son is the Prime Minister of a country, so of course he has an invitation. Who do you think you are? How dare you question Prime Minister's son's status? Yi Qing Luo was innocent. Your young Miss Sun is also from the Sun family, but doesn't she have an invitation as well? So why is she still here? She blinked her eyes. Chapter 1782. You're talking nonsense. I didn't. Miss Sun didn't expect Yi Qing Luo to bring the topic back to her. Her eyes were red as she sobbed and held on to Prime Minister's son's hand. "Eldest uncle, I really didn't. I just have never seen an auction ceremony before." Yi Qing Luo added another stab. "Oh, never seen an auction ceremony and want to join the fun? Then, that Alchemist Guild's disciple knocked into your feet and flew out by himself, causing a body of injuries?" Pausing, she clicked her tongue, and his invitation letter also flew into your hand by itself, then manipulated you to tear it? Yi Qing Luo said it word by word, extremely clearly, especially when she intentionally emphasized on the word himself. The people in the queue could no longer hold back their laughter when they heard Lin Fan's words. Miss Sun's face flushed red. She grabbed onto Prime Minister's son's sleeve tightly, hoping that her eldest uncle could teach Yi Qing Luo a lesson on her behalf. However, when Prime Minister's son heard Alchemist Guild's disciple, his eyes sunk and the gaze he shot towards Bai Ming-che was filled with a deeper meaning. Yi Qing Luo saw the change in Prime Minister's son's emotions. Her lips curled as she revealed a teasing smile. She wasn't afraid of creating trouble. South Continent, the headquarters turf. She had the headquarters vice president backing her up, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Eldest uncle. Seeing Prime Minister's son, not saying a word, Miss Sun carefully called out to him. Following that, she winked at her sisters. They were all in cahoots with each other, so the other three naturally understood Miss Sun's meaning. Zhao and Qian family's young ladies were still desperately grabbing their own bodies. Prime Minister's son, this slut is simply spouting nonsense. She dares to instigate the Alchemist Guild's disciple. She totally doesn't put us, the Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li families in her eyes. Miss Li also held her chest. The person who created trouble is her. She was the one who hit us. It was that Alchemist Guild disciple who poisoned us. The few young ladies all treated Prime Minister's son as their last hope. If they couldn't get back at the grievances they had suffered today, what face did the four young ladies have to continue to roam the world? Prime Minister's son narrowed his shrewd eyes. As the Prime Minister of the Eastern Continent, his every word and action represented the Eastern Continent. Naturally, he wouldn't stand up for these juniors just because of a few words. However, the red-clothed young lady before him was indeed too arrogant. He was insolent and arrogant. Most of the people in the queue were from influential families from all over the world. If he took a step back here today, in the future, The Sun family would be a joke in the pugilistic world. Prime Minister Sun couldn't afford to lose face like this. Prime Minister Sun thought to himself, thinking about how to solve this problem. Suddenly, a group of people walked out from within the treasure-gathering pavilion. The ones in the lead were a boy and a girl who were only 16 or 17 years old. Behind them were 10 guards in uniform and 2 white-haired, dignified old men. When this group of people appeared, the 2 stewards and the 20 Earth Xian guards who were examining everyone's invitation bowed respectfully to the young man and woman. Young Master Shi, Miss Shi. The appearance of these 2 young men immediately attracted the attention of many people. Many people greeted the 2 of them. Chapter 1783. This situation made Prime Minister Sun's eyes filled with joy. These 2 youngsters were simply his lucky stars. This matter was forgotten just like that, which was beneficial to Sun family. As for that young lass, they could settle it secretly. These are the 2 from Shi family, one of Treasure Pavilion's public powerhouses. Right. That's the 2 children of Shi family, elder brother Shi Ruoyu, younger sister Shi Ruo Shi. I heard that in this generation of Shi family, the master only married 1 wife, leaving behind a son and a daughter, and no other heirs. Upon seeing the 2 from Shi family, almost everyone in the queue wanted to greet them, but they couldn't easily leave the position they were standing at. Otherwise, they would have to queue up again. In the crowd, a tiny voice was suddenly heard. The 2 from Shi family, despite being so busy, still took the time to come over. Are you here to personally welcome Prime Minister Sun? This sentence made everyone instantly reacted. That's right. Today was the auction. As one of the public powerhouses of Treasure Pavilion, the Shi family should be busy in Treasure Pavilion. But this pair of siblings actually came to Treasure Pavilion. Apparently they had heard the servants' report and specially came to the entrance to welcome them. Of all the people present, the one with the highest status was Prime Minister Sun, who came from the East Continent. Shi family siblings were obviously here to welcome Prime Minister Sunday. Everyone instantly forgot about the matter of Prime Minister Sun suffering a setback in front of Yiqing Luo. They all casted envious gazes towards Prime Minister Sunday. To be able to make the Shi family siblings to welcome him personally, he must be a respectable person whom Treasure Pavilion recognized. Which meant to say, Prime Minister Sun's status in the future would also rise because of this. Prime Minister Sun was originally puzzled. He had never had any dealings with Treasure Pavilion, nor had he interacted with the Shi family. Why would the Shi family siblings come out personally to welcome him? But in front of the various powerhouses, they were envied by everyone. Prime Minister Sun's suspicious heart slowly expanded. What everyone said seemed to make sense. He was after all the Prime Minister of East Continent. The Shi family siblings took the initiative to express their goodwill, probably because they had their eyes on East Continent's powerhouses and wanted to befriend East Continent. So they specially fawned on him. With this in mind, Prime Minister Sun straightened his back and displayed his authority as a prime minister. The embarrassing situation caused by the little girl just now also disappeared in an instant. When the Shi siblings looked at Prime Minister Sun, their expressions were filled with unconcealable joy. Immediately, Shi Ruoshi released Shi Ruoyu's arm and trotted forward. Shi Ruoshi was petite and looked like a little lowly. Prime Minister Sun was stunned by Shi Ruoshi's enthusiasm, but he quickly regained his senses. He extended his arms toward Shi Ruoshi and revealed an extremely amiable smile. Shi girl slowed down. Grandfather doesn't know how to, before he could say the word run. The little girl in the scarlet dress ran past Prime Minister Sun and quickly ran behind him. Prime Minister Sun, everyone in the queue. What's going on? Did Miss Shi run so fast that she ran over her head and didn't manage to stop? Then they saw Shi Ryu slowly walk past Prime Minister Sun, who had his arms outstretched and was frozen on the spot. It was understandable that Miss Shi hadn't been able to stop in time. But where was young Master Shi? Just as everyone was in a daze, passing Prime Minister Sun and staring at the Shi siblings. Shi Ruoshi cried out in joy, Sister Qing Luo, you're here too. Chapter 1784. Queuing crowd. What situation was this? Everyone had yet to digest Miss Shi's actions. Shi Ruoyu had already walked in front of Yi Qing Luo as he gave her a smile. Qing Luo, I didn't expect to meet you so soon. Shi Ruo, she raised her head as she gave a cute smile. I didn't dare to believe that my class's student had arrived. Luckily, I dragged my brother out to confirm it. Queuing crowd. So, the Shi siblings specially came out just to confirm the identity of the red-robed young lady? What was the relationship between the Shi siblings and the red-robed young lady? From the looks of it, their relationship was absolutely close. Yi Qing Luo gently hugged the cute girl in her arms as her charming eyes fixed on Shi Ruoyu. Although she looked calm on the surface, but her heart was filled with astonishment. She had not expected that one of the powerhouses in Treasure Pavilion was actually Shi Ruoyu and Shi Ruoshi's family. When she saw the information that Peach had arranged for her, her attention was placed on the mysterious powerhouse behind Treasure Pavilion. She didn't pay too much attention to which two powerhouses were the two powerhouses on the surface. Qing Luo, if I knew that you were interested in the auction, I should have gone to the main courtyard earlier to look for you. Shi Ruoyu said warmly as his gaze surveyed Yi Qing Luo. Devil Class's brothers didn't come over? Why don't I prepare more invitations and send them over to the main courtyard? Saying that, Shi Ruoyu turned around and was about to enter Treasure Pavilion to prepare the invitations. Yi Qing Luo hurriedly stopped him. No need to trouble yourself. The four of us are enough. Sister Qing Luo, she will bring you around. There are many things in Treasure Pavilion that Sister has not seen before. Shi Ruo, she held Yi Qing Luo's arm tightly. Yi Qing Luo looked at the queuing crowd. Those pairs of eyes were staring straight at her. It looked like she indeed had to rely on her connections to cut the queue to enter Treasure Pavilion. If she were to stay behind to be investigated, this group of high-ranking officials and dignitaries would probably rush up. Yi Qing Luo coughed lightly. Let's go. Shi Ruo, she happily held Yi Qing Luo's arm. Yi Qing Luo held Dmo Xian's arm, and along with Yin Xiao, Yi, and Xiao Jin, she also pulled along Bai Mingche as they cut the queue and walked into Treasure Pavilion. Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something when she just entered the door. She patted Shi Ruoshi's arm lightly, signaling her to wait for a moment. Then, she turned around, blinked her charming eyes, and put on an innocent and pure smile. She stared at the dumbfounded Prime Minister's son and said, "By the way, Prime Minister's son, for the sake of your age, I can only show you what it means to cut in line with my actions." The people in the queue couldn't help but burst into laughter. This Prime Minister's son was too much of a bully. This wasn't the East Wave continent. How could a Prime Minister of the East Wave continent dare to cause trouble in the South Wave continent? Slander Yi Qing Luo for cutting the queue? Now, someone was cutting the queue openly for you to see, and you couldn't even be angry. This was a resounding slap to the face. He thinks that he is the Prime Minister of the East Wave continent and wants to put on airs in the South Wave continent. It is understandable that the juniors are insensible and domineering, but he is already so old. Where does he get his face from? What young lady cutting the queue? From what I see, he just wants to stand up for his arrogant and despotic niece. This matter, who is right and who is wrong, we can see it clearly. It's obviously those four young ladies who are bullying others. Even if the monarch of the East Wave continent is here today, there's no way to refute it. Chapter 1785. Anyone with discerning eyes could tell who was the real big shot. Earlier Prime Minister's son really thought that the Shi siblings were here specially to welcome him. Right. He even called Miss Shilas. He's indeed someone who mingles in the imperial court. This ability to turn hostile is really unparalleled. Just a moment ago, he was still threatening that red-robed young lady, and the next moment, he turned into an amiable old grandpa. I laughed my head off. His words reminded everyone of Prime Minister's son's arrogant and smug look just a moment ago. All of them couldn't help but burst out laughing. Prime Minister's son's face turned green and red from everyone's laughter. Everyone's gazes were like torches. Prime Minister's son was both ashamed and embarrassed, but he couldn't flare up at the surrounding people. At this moment, if he was enraged, it would definitely cause the crowd to rebound. He stared fiercely at the four ladies who didn't dare to say a single word, as his heart was filled with extreme hatred. If it wasn't for these four juniors, how would he be so embarrassed today? That red-robed young lady. He must cut her into pieces. Right? Aren't you curious about that red-robed young lady's identity? She looks like she's only 14 or 15 years old, but her aura is so strong. And she even made the She siblings treat her with respect, surely. She's that mysterious powerhouse's daughter behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion. That's not right. Earlier the She siblings seemed to have called her something. There's too many people, and it's too noisy, so I didn't hear it clearly. I think they called her Qing Luo, right? That's Qing Luo. After this sentence was said, immediately, the bustling crowd outside Treasure Gathering Pavilion fell into a dead silence. Immediately following that, it suddenly started to boil like boiling water. Qing Luo? That Heavenly Academy devil classes, Yi Qing Luo? The blazing flame nest who saved the various academies, and just based on one person's ability, she killed the King of Darkness's conspiracy and informed the Imperial Palace about the Dark Forces base camp, allowing the Imperial Palace's men to exterminate the Dark Forces Yi Qing Luo. I heard that the She siblings are in Universe Academy. They're also the students who followed Master Gui Wu into the blazing flame nest. She siblings are so friendly towards Yi Qing Luo. It should be because she saved their lives in the blazing flame nest. Right, that person must be Yi Qing Luo. The main academy's director had personally admitted that student Yi Qing Luo is their hero. Countless voices of discussion rose one after another. Everyone started to admire Yi Qing Luo even more. He despised Prime Minister Sun even more. After hearing Yi Qing Luo's identity, Prime Minister Sun's expression turned extremely ugly. He resisted the strange looks from the people around him and led a group of people to the back of the queue. No matter what, he couldn't miss this auction. Yi Qing Luo and the rest entered the treasure gathering chambers. The Jubao Pavilion was extremely spacious, and the auction hall could accommodate at least 20,000 people. There were also thousands of private rooms on the second floor. A place with Qing Luo around is indeed bustling. Shiryu laughed lightly. Yi Qing Luo laughed dryly. The one who stirred up trouble this time was this kid. I just saw injustice on the road, so I pulled out my sword to lend a helping hand, and at the same time, acted as a hero to save the little boy. Little boy? Bai Ming-che blinked his eyes, not understanding the meaning of this term. What I mean is a young man who is good-looking. Yi Qing Luo explained patiently. So you and young Master Shi are both little boys, but our ages are older than you. Bai Ming-che tilted his head as he didn't understand. Chapter 1786. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo was so deflated that she couldn't refute, the few of them couldn't help but chuckle. Right at this moment, a white-browed old man in a white robe came looking for Shiryu. He seemed to have some urgent matter that required Shiryu to personally deal with. Brother, go ahead and busy yourself. Sister Qing Luo has me to accompany her. She waved her hand, apparently not intending to help in managing this auction. Shiryu looked helpless, but he couldn't hide the love in his eyes. He whispered to the elderly man for a while and immediately looked towards Yi Qing Luo. Qing Luo, I'll leave this mischievous sister of mine to you. Only you can control her. Yi Qing Luo looked at the little girl who was glued to her as she nodded with a light smile. Go ahead and busy yourself. Shiryu nodded and was about to leave. Suddenly he thought of something as he turned his head to look at Yi Qing Luo. Your brothers are all outside. Do you really not need me to invite them in? Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned. He actually found out. That's right. Among the people who were queuing up just now, from time to time, he would come out to defame Prime Minister Sun, and from time to time, he would set the pace. Other than the group of students from the devil class who came to join in the fun, who else could it be? Yi Qing Luo had interacted with devil class's students for such a long time, so naturally, she was able to recognize their voices at the first instance. That group of youths who wished for the whole world to be in chaos really followed her philosophy of not paying with their lives. With those brothers here and Prime Minister Sun outside, if he insisted on attending the auction, he was afraid he wouldn't have it easy. At the very least, Prime Minister Sun's image in the eyes of the public was about to collapse. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly as she shook her head. Just let them watch the show from the outside. The four of us have already walked in so openly through the back door. If we bring a few more brothers in, you won't be able to explain to the others. The trip to the auction house today was suggested by Shi Shanglan. It also indicated that something unexpected would happen at the auction today. The four of them were in the treasure-gathering pavilion and could escape at any time. As for the other brothers, stay outside and provide support at any time. After Shi Ruoyu left, Shi pulled Yiqing Luo's hand as she excitedly introduced some of the rare things in Jubao Pavilion to her. Looking at the little girl's sparkling eyes, Yiqing Luo could tell that this lass was sincere, treating her as her sister. His wife had always been dominated by a little girl. A certain venerable sovereign expressed his displeasure. With a gloomy face, he followed behind Yiqing Luo. His long and narrow peach blossom eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's back with extreme bitterness. However, his wife was so amused by the little girl that she did not notice his mood at all. Whereas for Qiao Jin and Yin Xiao Yi, who were 3 steps behind DMO Xian, the atmosphere was indescribably strange. Of course, on the surface, the atmosphere was just right. The strange feeling came from Qiao Jin's feelings. As expected of a #1 auction house, the 4 walls are either inlaid with gold or silver. It's even more dazzling than Holy Thief's Room. It's blinding. Yin Xiao Yi tugged on Qiao Jin's arm. Her lively and beautiful eyes flashed with the brilliance of surprise. *TCH Jin, if we take all these things back, wouldn't Holy Pirate laugh like crazy? Qiao Jin looked at the slender hand on his arm, and his eyes dimmed. Not getting a response, Yin Xiao Yi seemed to be rather annoyed as she raised her fist and punched the back of Qiao Jin's head. *CK? Slut Jin, I'm talking to you. How dare you ignore me? *TCH Jin. Qiao Jin was slightly dazed. How long had it been since she called him *TCH Jin? Chapter 1787. Yin Xiaoyi saw that he was still in a daze after being punched. She clenched her fists and tried hard to maintain the expression on her face, hiding the flash of pain in her eyes. After that, she grunted lightly and jogged far away from Qiao Jin. I can't be bothered to talk to you. I'll just get a taste of being rich myself. Saying that, Yin Xiaoyi hastened her footsteps as she walked past Yiqing Luo, squeezing through the crowd in front. Xiaoyi. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she immediately called out. However, Yin Xiaoyi seemed to not have heard her voice as she blended into the crowd and disappeared. Jinzi, what's going on? Haven't I asked you to follow her properly? Yiqing Luo's expression sunk as she turned her head towards Qiao Jin. But he saw Qiao Jin standing rooted to the ground, his eyes staring blankly in the direction that Yin Xiaoyi had left. Yiqing Luo was filled with reprimands, but after seeing Qiao Jin's expression, she couldn't say anything at all. She pursed her lips and let go of Shi Ruoshi's hand. She approached Qiao Jin and whispered in his ear, "It's not safe here. If you don't want anything to happen to Xiao Yi, you'd better follow her closely." Pausing, Yiqing Luo's eyes were tainted with a thin layer of ice. No matter what you treat Xiao Yi as, I only hope that you protect her well. Qiao Jin's body stiffened as he abruptly shifted his line of sight, meeting Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yiqing Luo didn't say another word as she directly turned around and returned to Shi Ruoshi's side. Together with Shi Ruoshi, they continued their journey forward. DMO Xian didn't even bother to look over as his gaze was all on Yiqing Luo. The 3 of them had already gone far away. Qiao Jin was still in a daze as he stared at the direction where Yin Xiaoyi had disappeared. An intense, dull pain assaulted his heart. It was as if a sharp blade had pierced his heart. His heart was ruthlessly cut into pieces. Slut Jin, Slut Jin. In his mind, Yin Xiaoyi's voice reverberated. Again and again, pounding against his heart. Qiao Jin clenched his fists tightly, his body also tensed up. Ever since he saw Yin Xiaoyi today, he felt that it was extremely strange. Now, he finally understood where the strange feeling came from. When Yin Xiaoyi saw him, She was no longer cold, no longer expressionless, and no longer deliberately avoiding him. On the contrary, her attitude towards him. As usual, his attitude was exactly the same as when they were still brothers. Her smile, her tone, her ridiculing tone, everything returned to how it was in the past. Did he completely give up on the only possibility between them and chose to return to the past? This was clearly what he had been hoping for. But when he realized this, his heart ached even more than yesterday when he saw her throw something that belonged to them by the pool. It's not peaceful here today. I only hope that you can protect her. Yiqing Luo's deep and solemn voice surfaced in his mind again. Xiao Jin's eyes suddenly turned cold. That's right. Today, the treasure-gathering pavilion was destined to not be peaceful. He couldn't let Yin Xiao Yi leave alone. He had to protect Yin Xiao Yi. Xiao Jin took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed the piercing pain in his heart as he swiftly charged into the crowd, searching for Yin Xiao Yi's figure. Yiqing Luo followed Shi Ruo Shi as they circled around some of the places in Jubao Pavilion which were meant for people to admire. Other than the storage of treasures and some private areas of Jubao Pavilion, they had never been there. He had basically finished touring the Jubao Pavilion. Chapter 1788. Not long after, about 4 hours had passed. Shi Ruo Shi had been maintaining her excited spirit and had led Yiqing Luo to wander around blindly, so her energy was severely depleted. The auction was about to start. Yiqing Luo supported Shi Ruo Shi, and based on the number on the invitation card, they found their location. Shi Shanglan's invitation card was for the VIP cabin on the second floor. For people to a cabin, Yiqing Luo entered their cabin under the guidance of the attendant. The private room faced the stage of the auction. A few strands of white gauze covered the view of their private room. There was a square mahogany table with exquisite desserts, delicious fruits, and fragrant green tea on it. 4 chairs under the veil stood side by side. Seeing that his miss had followed them into the private room, the page boy quickly brought a chair over. Shi Ruo, she was so tired that she laid down on the chair to rest. Yiqing Luo walked to the front of the white veil and lifted it. Behind the veil was a horizontal railing that reached her waist. Looking over, one could see the entire auction hall. Even those guests in the opposite cabin who lifted the veil could see it. Yiqing Luo took a look at Shi Ruo, she who had fallen asleep on the chair, and smiled helplessly. This lass, it was only the second time they met, and she was so assured of them. One must know, Shi Ruo, she was the miss of the Shi family. If she was some evil person to kidnap Shi Ruo Shi, then she could threaten the Shi family, threaten the treasure-gathering pavilion. Lil Luo, how much longer do you want to watch? Behind her, a sour voice was heard. Before Yiqing Luo could turn back, a scorching feeling covered her back. The man's boiling hot chest was pressed against her back. Her body was brought into Mo Xian's arms. The both of them fell onto a chair not too far away from Shi Ruo Shi. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hands in shock and hugged his neck tightly. Ah Xian. The words had just left her mouth when the man's scorching breath covered the sky and earth. Before she could finish her words, it was forcefully swallowed back into his stomach. His kiss was extremely forceful. It was overbearing, an irresistible force. The sweet and scorching breath intertwined between their lips. Yiqing Luo's body kept quivering under his kiss and his large palms, which couldn't be restrained. Her face was already dyed crimson. Her slightly opened and closed eyes were filled with a misty and seductive luster. Why did he suddenly turn blue? And he was kissing her so hard. The kiss was so green. Little she was still asleep. If she woke up and saw them like this, wouldn't they be teaching the wrong things? Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's consciousness awoke from the dizziness of Mo Xian's kiss. She immediately tried to struggle, but just as he moved, all of a sudden, he put more force into his lips. He fiercely sucked on her little tongue. Yiqing Luo's petite body shuddered violently as an extremely shameful voice leaked out from her mouth. Her entire person once again fell limply into Mo Xian's arms. He kissed Yi Qing Luo until she was about to suffocate before he released her lips. Then, his hot, wet lips pressed against her neck. Yi Qing Luo's petite body trembled even more violently as her little hand weakly rested on his chest. Ah, Xian, don't continue. This is treasure-gathering chambers. Although there was a veil to cover. But this veil was hazy. How much could it cover? And the outside was a boiling cauldron of voices as people came and went. Adding on to the fact that there was a little girl who could wake up any time. This was simply too exciting. Chapter 1789. When DMO Xian's fingers slid into her fair skin. Yi Qing Luo completely went berserk. At this moment, how could she still have any romantic thoughts? She raised her fist and smashed it hard on DMO Xian's head. Her whole body turned soft. This punch was slow and powerless. DMO Xian easily grasped her fist. His fingers penetrated into the gaps between her fingers and intertwined with hers. However, DMO Xian stopped the action of igniting the fire on her body. Ah, Xian, you also need to look at the occasion. Yi Qing Luo blushed and stared at DMO Xian resentfully. DMO Xian stared straight into her eyes. His peach blossom eyes carried a pool of spring water. His charm was extremely seductive. Yi Qing Luo's little heart was easily teased to the point of thumping madly. She suppressed her wildly beating heart and struggled to get out of his arms. Ah, Xian, calm down. She hadn't finished her words. Her body suddenly leaned forward. She was embraced by DMO Xian, his arms tightly wrapped around her waist. The man pillowed on her shoulder, and his low, husky voice revealed his suppressed emotions. Little Luo, I am jealous. Jealous? Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened. In my eyes, Shiroyu is just a brat and not him. DMO Xian raised his head, his enchanting peach blossom eyes fixed on Yi Qing Luo. In his eyes, there were some indistinct grievances. Yi Qing Luo felt a chill down her spine. Her little hand supported his chest and pulled apart the distance between them. I'm not flirting. Her sincerity towards her Ah Xian was witnessed by heaven and earth. How could she make Ah Xian jealous and make him feel aggrieved? This style, it was totally different from her Ah Xian. I don't like your sight on other people, even women. After DMO Xian finished this sentence, he seemed to be aware of his embarrassment and tightened his arms, hugging Yi Qing Luo tightly. Yi Qing Luo's widened eyes slowly contracted. A pair of charming eyes were stained with a sweet smile. So, Ah Xian was jealous of little Shi. However, that was indeed the case. Ever since she met Xiao Shi, she had been pestered by Xiao Shi and had no chance to speak to DMO Xian. If it was her, DMO Xian dared to give her the cold shoulder because of his own friend. She had long flown into a rage and asked DMO Xian to live with his friend. But he had always endured it. He followed behind her silently. It was only when Shiruashi fell asleep from exhaustion that he vented his dissatisfaction in this way. This man, she was really too cute. Yi Qing Luo rubbed her head against his chest. It's my fault. I didn't consider your feelings. There won't be a next time. Her obedient attitude of admitting her mistake pleased DMO Xian. DMO Xian lowered his head and kissed her hard on her lips. His slender fingers held her chin. If there's a next time, I will use my own methods to make it impossible for you to take your eyes off me. His smile was incomparably devilish and seductive. His shimmering peach blossom eyes were overflowing with the warmth of spring. Yi Qing Luo's heart tightened. Behind his smile, why did it make her feel? He felt a chill run down his spine. Her waist was inexplicably sore. Her legs were inexplicably weak. What kind of omen was this? Yi Qing Luo's long, curly eyelashes fluttered as her cheeks suddenly turned crimson red. You're flirting with me again? Suddenly, she understood what DMO Xian meant. Chapter 1790. DMO Xian raised his brows domineeringly. I'm flirting with my woman. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, there's nothing wrong with that. But Ah Xian was gradually developing into a domineering CEO. What was going on? Or was it that in every man's heart There was a domineering CEO. He was domineering to her. He was strong to her. He was able to make her blush. Was she unable to resist flirting? Looking at the lovely person in his arms, her face was blushing and her eyes were misty. No matter how one looked at her, her eyes were seductive. DMO Xian's blood was surging. This look made DMO Xian's blood boil even more. His arms tightened as he pressed the soft and delicate girl in his arms into his embrace. Yiqing Luo was half lying in DMO Xian's arms, feeling the scalding sensation on her stomach. How could she not know what it was? She was already dead. She blushed immediately and struggled to push DMO Xian. Don't mess around. The auction is about to start. She struggled and rubbed against the man. This only made DMO Xian's eyes darken. Yiqing Luo looked into that pair of peach blossom eyes, which were full of affection. She only felt that if eyes could be used to do it, she would probably be done 7 or 8 times by DMO Xian's eyes. That strong desire, Yiqing Luo could see it clearly. She was getting more and more flustered. Xian, calm down. I don't want to put on an erotic show with you here. Yiqing Luo's little heart trembled. Little she is still on the side. This man was a little too jealous, wasn't he? This private room was only covered by a white veil. When the wind blew, the veil fluttered. If DMO Xian was really here, he would definitely take her. She would really collapse. She won't wake up. DMO Xian's hoarse voice rang in her ears. The man's heavy breathing sprayed into her ears. Extremely heavy. The elegant sandalwood fragrance revealed an aura that made one blush. Yiqing Luo's delicate body was also trembling from the heat, slightly warm. Hearing the man's firm words, Yiqing Luo suddenly understood something. She fell asleep. It's you who did it? The man raised his eyebrows in disbelief. This man had made up his mind to take the opportunity to teach her a lesson. At this moment, a deep voice suddenly came from the auction hall. Immediately, the noisy hall quietened down. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and stared at DMO Xian as her fist pounded on his chest. The auction is about to start. Stop fooling around. Saying that, she had already stood up from DMO Xian's arms. This time, DMO Xian did not stop her. The man's hand on her waist slid down. The elegant scent of sandalwood disappeared. The man's unique warmth also gradually dissipated. Yiqing Luo's heart actually felt a little empty. Her heart skipped a beat, and she clenched her fists. She would not feel empty, lonely, or cold. She was not the kind of woman who could not live without a man. She must not let DMO Xian lead her astray. Shaking off the distracting thoughts in her mind, Yiqing Luo walked briskly to the side of the veil and lifted it. She saw the tall stage in the middle of the auction hall, and the white-browed old man who was beside Shiruo Yu earlier stood there, explaining the rules of the auction. The hall, which could accommodate more than 20,000 people, was actually filled with people. Looking at the private rooms in front, it was also full. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but sigh silently. It was indeed the #1 auction house in the southern continent. It indeed lived up to its reputation. She watched the bustling scene in high spirits. Chapter 1791. Xian, look, Prime Minister's son. Yiqing Luo pointed to a private room on the opposite right as a meaningful smile surfaced in her eyes. But before she could finish her sentence, her body felt light, and she was once again tightly embraced in DMO Xian's embrace. DMO Xian snorted lightly. What are you looking at him for? He's just an old man. What's there to look at? Yiqing Luo laughed into a ball in his arms. Don't tell me you're jealous of him too. Eat. DMO Xian's answer was very straightforward, as though it was a matter of course. Yiqing Luo's body leaned into his embrace. She could clearly feel the man's rising temperature. There was also a certain place that didn't show any signs of stopping. Her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. Her long and narrow eyes flashed with a bewitching radiance. She leaned closer to DMO Xian. Her fragrant breath gently blew into DMO Xian's ear. She could feel the man's body gradually stiffening. Yi-Ching Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing as she hooked her arm around his neck, giving a charming smile. Little Xian, bear with it first and get through the auction. After we return, you could do whatever you want. DMO, Xian's body, tensed up even more. The veins on his forehead were bulging. Heavy breaths fell on Yi-Ching Luo's ears. It made Yi-Ching Luo giggle continuously. This last was simply like a demon. DMO Xian's eyes were scarlet red as he stared fiercely at Yi-Ching Luo. That gaze seemed as though it wanted to strip Yi-Ching Luo clean. The old man in the auction hall had reached the end of his speech. DMO Xian's body tensed up as he hugged Yi-Ching Luo tightly and used her petite body to fiercely press against a certain part of him. Yi-Ching Luo's alluring face flushed red, but she didn't struggle any further. DMO Xian leaned close to her ear. His voice was husky and exceptionally alluring. All right. One word, and Yi-Ching Luo's ears were about to get pregnant. Yi-Ching Luo stared at him as she pushed his hand away. I'm not going to mess around with you anymore. The auction has already started. Hasn't Jin Zi found Xiao Yi yet? Jin Zi and Xiao Yi both had invitations. The name of their private room was printed on the invitation. You should have been able to find them. It had been so long, but they still hadn't come to the private room. Thinking of that man who was smiling warmly like jade, Yi-Ching Luo's heart surged with an ominous premonition. There's Jin Zi here, no need to worry. DMO Xian's expression resumed his usual devilish splendor. He walked to the side of the veil and scanned the crowd below. Jin Zi has feelings for Xiao. Yi-Ching Luo's slender brows creased as she glanced sideways at him. Jin Zi's ability, isn't it only at Earth Profound 7th grade? I can barely protect myself, but protecting Xiao Yi is a little difficult. DMO Xian looked ahead. The expression on his face was rather complicated. After a while, he sighed softly. He is not as simple as he seems, but I can be sure that Xiao Jin will not harm any of you. Jin Zi wasn't as simple as she thought. Indeed, she had always felt this way. He just didn't want to speculate too much about his brother. Everyone had their own secrets, a secret that he did not wish to be explored by others. However, you know Jin Zi's identity? Yi-Ching Luo's brows rose as she felt curious. DMO Xian only smiled. Seeing that he didn't intend to say, Yi-Ching Luo couldn't be bothered to ask any further. Since DMO Xian had already said that Xiao Jin could protect Yin Xiao Yi, she believed in DMO Xian's words. At this moment, the auction stage started to stir up the atmosphere and heat. Chapter 1792. It was a Supreme Being grade armor. It was rumored to be used by Sky Mystic Supremes. Wearing it, unless it was a Supreme grade weapon or above, it would absolutely not be able to damage the armor at all. The first auction item was a Supreme grade. Everyone instantly felt their blood boiling as they started to look forward to the 10 auction items in the baptism auction. This kind of life-saving armor had aroused the enthusiasm of many cultivators. After more than 10 rounds of bidding, it was finally won by a family with 100,000 gold coins. Following that, there were some 5th grade medicinal pills, Supreme grade weapons. There are also some strange jades. The further it went, the more precious the auction items were. The excitement in the entire auction hall was stirred up by wave after wave. However, Yi-Ching Luo was drowsy looking at it. She had no interest in these things at all. In terms of medicinal pills, even if she couldn't refine them, she still had her ancestor-level master, Ghost Doctor. What medicinal pills could she not have? Weapons? Jewelry? She could casually pull out one from the Profound Phoenix Ring, and it would totally beat those auction items. Young Mirage Beasts? Her battle pets were either Holy Beasts or Battle-type Mirage Beasts. Looking at the 20,000 over people in the hall, their cheers were earth-shattering and the excitement was surging. Yi-Ching Luo started to wonder, could this group of people be hired by the treasure-gathering pavilion? Were these things worth their excitement? Also spent a lot of money to smash. If she knew it was so profitable, she would have taken out all the things in the Profound Phoenix Ring to exchange for money. If everyone present knew what Yi-Ching Luo was thinking, they would probably be gnashing their teeth and scolding Yiqing Luo for being perverted. Did you think everyone was as perverted as you? Did you think everyone was as lucky as you? You could pick up divine weapons, holy beasts, and experts just by walking on the road. Don't you dare to cheat too much. You still have the cheek to complain about our excitement? Time passed by minute and second. By the time it was the 7th auction item, another 4 hours had passed. Yiqing Luo stretched her waist as she turned her head to look at the drowsy Shi Ruo Shi. His gaze paused on the 2 empty chairs for a moment. Jin Zi still hasn't returned. Did something really happen? Dmo Xian wrapped his arm around her waist and nodded his head absent-mindedly, and Yiqing Luo suddenly pushed his hand away and stood up. Did something really happen? Dmo Xian squinted his bewitching peach blossom eyes as he propped his chin on one hand and leaned lazily against the chair. Something's happened. Dmo Xian would never crack such a joke. But his attitude, why was he so nonchalant, as if he didn't care? This also meant that Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao should be fine. But knowing that something had happened to them, even if she knew that they were fine, Yiqing Luo still couldn't help but worry. Where are they? Yiqing Luo somehow felt that she was always in control of Dmo Xian's hands. Dmo Xian reached out and grabbed her arm. Yiqing Luo's body lost its balance and fell into his arms. The man chuckled beside her ear. Lil Luo, do you really think of me as an omniscient deity? At this moment, I'm not in the mood to joke with you. Yiqing Luo was burning with anxiety as she stared at him. Dmo Xian gently caressed her hair. I indeed don't know where they are, but someone does. Who? Dmo Xian's thin lips curled upwards as his gaze turned towards a certain direction. Yiqing Luo followed his gaze and looked over. Chapter 1793. At the opposite right corner of their private room, under the floating veil, Yiqing Luo could vaguely see the person seated inside. Brown embroidered gold robe, clouds of auspicious clouds, golden edges rolling. His figure was tall and straight. His gentle, jade-like face bore a gentle smile, quietly watching the auction below. Xishanglan. Yiqing Luo subconsciously grabbed Dmo Xian's sleeve tightly. Did he make a move on Jin Zi and Xiao? Xishanglan was actually in the right corner of their private room. From the angle of her private room, she really couldn't see clearly. And with the veil covering, it was impossible to notice that private room. If it wasn't for Dmo Xian's detection, she probably wouldn't be able to sense who was in that private room till the end of the auction. But from that angle, Xishanglan could totally see their entire private room. These 4 invitations were prepared by Xishanglan for them. The private room's location was also decided by Xishanglan. Was he trying to spy on them? His target is you. Dmo Xian's meaning was that Yin Xiao, Yi, and Xiao Jin were currently safe. Yiqing Luo raised her head. Since he wants to deal with me, why? Especially let Xiao, Yi come here? You're like a loach. He shed all pretenses to capture you, but if you run away, wouldn't there be no more chances in future? Dmo Xian patted her shoulder lightly. Warm embrace, warm breath, elegant sandalwood fragrance. All of these gave Yiqing Luo a sense of security. His identity is Xiao Yi's fiancé. Using Xiao Yi's name, he invited you to treasure gathering chambers so that it wouldn't arouse your suspicions and the other brother's suspicions. Moreover, with Xiao Yi in his hands, even if they shed all pretenses, he's not afraid that you will run away. Dmo Xian's voice calmly analyzed Xishanglan's motive. When does he intend to make a move on me? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased. Moreover, he knows that I have you by my side, so he shouldn't dare to act rashly. So, without absolute confidence, he wouldn't dare to make a move easily. Dmo Xian leaned close to her ear. Today you must not leave my side. Yiqing Luo felt her skin itching as she shrank back and hung her head down as she grumbled. I know. I will definitely hug your thick thighs tightly. Don't just talk about it. If you leave me on your own accord, when we return. Dmo Xian's voice lowered again. I will punish you. You won't be able to get off the bed. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled. Her little head leaned on his chest. shaking and swaying. "You beast! I won't give you that chance." She absolutely believed it. This man would do what he said. In the opposite corner of the private room, Xishang Lan held a cup of tea and took a sip. His gentle gaze fell onto Yi Qing Luo's private room. The white veil fluttered. A man and a woman hugged each other tightly and seemed to be whispering something. After that, the girl shyly stepped into the man's embrace, as if she was acting coquettishly. From Xishang Lan's angle, he could see the side of the man's face that had a teasing smile on it. His gentle eyes flashed past a trace of ridicule. "Young master, the Overlord has always been sinister and cunning. Could it be?" Behind the private room, an ugly and extremely sinister skinny old man opened his mouth in a low voice. Before he could finish his words, Xishang Lan raised his hand until the little old man's voice was heard. His thin lips rose slightly, as gentle as the wind, like the spring breeze caressing one's face. However, if one were to look closely, one would find that the smile was actually hiding an extremely cold and sinister aura. Chapter 1794. No matter how strong or how heaven-defying a man was, he was still a man. Once he falls in love with a woman, he would no longer be strong. Even Dmo Xian was the same, because he had his own weakness. With a weak spot nearby, one's perception would decrease. The current Dmo Xian was wholeheartedly pampering his beloved young lady, so how would he possibly notice their plans? What's more, someone like Yi Qing Luo who valued relationships and righteousness. He had the two men in his hands. He didn't believe that Yi Qing Luo would abandon his brothers and leave with Dmo Xian. As for him, he only needed to suppress Yi Qing Luo. Were they still afraid that Dmo Xian would not surrender obediently? This time, not only could he help his father to bring Yi Qing Luo back to the island, they could even capture Dmo Xian along with them. At the same time, he could also make use of Dmo Xian to take all the forces in the imperial palace for his own use. At that time, he would be his father's favorite son. He would also become the future island master. The skinny old man frowned. "Young master, you are too confident. This kind of confidence is not a good thing." As the future master of the island, he naturally hoped that the young master could face everything with confidence. However, the other party was Dizun. He was a legendary figure in the Nirvana realm. Even the island lord wouldn't dare to touch the Arch Palace. The young master actually wanted to swallow the entire imperial palace? Wasn't his appetite a little too big? I guarantee that nothing will go wrong with today's plan. Xishang Lan's expression suddenly darkened when he heard someone questioning him. His eyes and smile were still as gentle as the spring breeze. However, there was a strange viciousness to it. No matter how one looked at that face that was as gentle as jade, there was a sense of incongruity. "Wuxia, you just need to follow this young master's plan and arrange everything properly. After today's matter, this young master will definitely raise the status of you three siblings on the island." When the skinny old man called Wuxia heard that, the words of advice stopped at the tip of his tongue. Far away, Yi Qing Luo's private room. Dmo Xian hugged Yi Qing Luo's petite body, but his peripheral vision was faintly discernible as he shot a glance at Xishang Lan. "Ah Xian, after Xishang Lan makes his move, if we follow him, will we be able to find Xiao, Yi, and Jinzi?" Yi Qing Luo suddenly raised her head and looked at Dmo Xian. "Amen." Dmo Xian caressed her fine black hair. "So what we can do now is to wait." "Wait?" Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips, but he hasn't taken any action. Does it mean that he isn't fully prepared? If we continue to wait, won't we be giving them a chance to prepare? What is his identity? What is the power behind him? Not to mention, since he chose to make a move in the treasure-gathering pavilion with a few tens of thousands of people, even if he wasn't completely prepared, he would absolutely not give us the chance to take advantage of the situation. Dmo Xian lowered his head and looked at Yi Qing Luo, who was unable to conceal the anxiety in her heart as he sighed softly. Everything about his lass was perfect. He was too sentimental and righteous. If a true expert had too many restraints in his heart, he would not be able to escape. This kind of restraint would only become a stumbling block to reaching the top. However, it was also because of the importance she attached to relationships. It was precisely because she seemed cold and hard, but in fact, she was a gentle girl. She attracted his gaze. His beloved Lil Luo. It was this kind of Lil Luo. Chapter 1795. Yes, she wanted to bid for the heavenly primordial serene grass and use it to refine pills for the two little sacred beasts. But in the current situation, how could she care about the Tianyuan serene grass? But when Yiqing Luo raised her head and met with DMO Xian's glistening peach blossom eyes, her petite body suddenly trembled. Right? Her goal was to retrieve the sky primordial serene grass. If she didn't care about the Tianyuan serene grass, wouldn't Shi Shanglan, who had been spying on her in the dark, sense her abnormality? She could not let Shi Shanglan suspect anything. She must bid for this returning heaven primordial serene grass. Now, what number of items are we at now? Yiqing Luo turned her head and looked outside the veil towards the direction of the first floor. The 9th item, DMO Xian, took her to the railing. Returning heaven primordial serene grass. The 9th item for auction was the sky returning primordial serene grass, which Yiqing Luo wanted. Fortunately, he did not miss it. At this moment, there were still more than 3,000 people bidding for the heaven returning origin serene grass. The base price was 50,000 gold coins, and the returning heaven primordial serene grass started at 10,000 gold coins each time. The price had already reached 3 million gold coins. It was obvious how many profound practitioners were yearning for the returning heaven origin serene grass. As long as they could obtain the heaven-restoring origin serene grass and refine it, they would be able to achieve a breakthrough and bring glory to their clans. This was a glory that could not be bought no matter how much money one spent. Now that he was feeling the pinch, he had to spend some money. It will be good for the future. In an instant, the price of the heaven-returning serene grass soared to 5 million gold coins. And the person who called out this price was Prime Minister Sun, who was seated in the cabin not too far away from Yiqing Luo. Prime Minister Sun was the strongest person in the Sun family. He was unrivaled along the way and became the Prime Minister of the Eastern Continent. Not only did he rely on his means, but he also relied on his ability. The current Prime Minister Sun was already a high-level Earth, profound 8th grade profound practitioner. He was only a step away from advancing to the 9th grade of the Earth profound realm. If he consumed the pill refined from the heaven-restoring serene grass, he might be able to step into the sky profound realm. He had already invited a Grandmaster Alchemist to refine a pill for his advancement. Prime Minister Sun was determined to obtain the returning heaven primordial serene grass. He was auctioning something in the auction house. What mattered was not who was more powerful. It was about who had more money. Many rich kids began to bid again. Prime Minister Sun couldn't wait to get the returning Sky Yuan serene grass, so he didn't bother to argue with the others. 10 million gold coins. The atmosphere suddenly froze. The clamor instantly died down. 10 million gold coins? Could Prime Minister Sun afford that much money? The East Wave continent was so fertile. Spending 10 million gold coins for an herb that could raise the mystic rank? Was Prime Minister Sun crazy? Or did he want to obtain this stock of medicinal herb to advance? Promotion? Everyone in the auction house looked at Prime Minister Sun's private room enviously. If Prime Minister Sun wanted to ascend to the Sky Profound realm, he would become a Sky Profound Supreme Expert. Indeed, he did not care about money. Once he succeeded in becoming a sovereign of the Sky Profound realm, even if it was 30 million or 40 million, he was willing to spend it. 10 million gold coins. 10 million gold coins. Are there any other bids? The white-browed old man hit the auction stage with a hammer. He shouted at the top of his lungs, but no one responded. He raised his hammer high. 10 million gold coins going once. 10 million gold coins going twice. 10 million. 15 million. Suddenly, a sweet voice was heard. Another 5 million? Everyone was stunned. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice to see who was so daring. Chapter 1796. In the VIP box on the second floor, a slender, jade-like hand lifted the white veil. It revealed the face of a beautiful young girl. The girl was dressed in a fiery red dress. Standing behind the veil, the flaming skirt was like a phoenix spreading its wings, flashing with a charm that made one unable to look away. Facing tens of thousands of pairs of eyes that were looking at him in unison. The girl was extremely calm and did not have the slightest bit of stage fright. Instead, she revealed a dazzling smile. It was like a blooming poppy, exuding a suffocating charm. Yi-Ching Luo, it's Yi-Ching Luo. I was wondering who dared to challenge Prime Minister Sun at this time. Other than Yi-Ching Luo, there's no one else. Among the people seated on the first floor, someone immediately recognized Yi-Ching Luo. After all, there were at least 1,000 people queuing at the entrance of the treasure-gathering pavilion. The Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li families, as well as Prime Minister Sun's bullying. They all saw it. Now that he saw Yi-Ching Luo standing out to challenge Prime Minister Sunday, they were not surprised at all. When Yi-Ching Luo's name was called out, the entire auction hall was in an uproar. Almost 10,000 people all stood up as they raised their heads to look at Yi-Ching Luo's cabin. After all, ever since Yi-Ching Luo returned to the headquarters from the Dark Forces, Yi-Ching Luo's name had already spread throughout the entire country. There was no one in the entire Nirvana realm who did not know about it. He had to rescue the students of the various academies who were trapped in the dark spell. He became the benefactor of the various powers and sections. Then, he risked his life to sneak into the base camp of the Dark Forces and secretly revealed the location of the base to the Imperial Palace. Most importantly, this girl was only 15 years old, the girl who had been called trash in the past. Using his own strength, he sealed the King of Darkness consciousness. He had crushed the conspiracy of the Dark Forces. Even the Ghost martial arts master, who had never been interested in anything other than practicing martial arts, was full of praise for him. Furthermore, he had a golden mouth to judge. In the future, Yi-Ching Luo would definitely be a talent who could ascend to the upper realm. Such a big name. It attracted the attention of tens of thousands of people every minute. Yi-Ching Luo had totally not expected that she would actually cause such a huge commotion. Even when he obtained the divine artifact in the tomb of the Ling King, it did not cause such a huge commotion. She was completely famous. 20 million. Just as everyone was admiring Yi-Ching Luo, Prime Minister Sun was so infuriated that his chest kept heaving up and down as he clenched his teeth and spat out 3 words. Everyone turned to look at Prime Minister Sun again. Looks like Prime Minister Sun was determined not to let go. And that 15-year-old girl obviously didn't want to let Prime Minister Sun have an easy time. 21 million. Yi-Ching Luo smiled lightly, as she wasn't in a hurry to increase the bid. Prime Minister Sun slammed the table and glared at her angrily. Stupid girl, do you know the rules of the treasure-gathering pavilion? Once the deal is made, it must be done on the spot. She was just a 15-year-old girl. Even though she had become famous to the point where she was known by everyone, she was still a little girl. However, it was only a matter of a few days. Even if the General Hospital were to intervene, they wouldn't be able to prepare 30 million gold coins for her in such a short time. Premier Sun absolutely didn't believe that Yi-Ching Luo could take out so many gold coins. Yi-Ching Luo raised her brows. I know. Is there a problem? Prime Minister Sun seemed as though he had eaten half a fly, as he didn't know whether to swallow or spit it out. The surrounding people didn't give him any face as they all burst out laughing with a pfft. The meaning in Yi-Ching Luo's words was very obvious. She wasn't afraid to do the transaction on the spot. Chapter 1797. Prime Minister Sun suppressed his anger as he called out again, 25 million. Yi-Ching Luo's expression didn't change, 26 million. Obviously, Yi-Ching Luo was going against him. No one was willing to give in. As for the other tycoons, they were also extremely interested in this medicinal herb. Earlier, it was because they heard that Prime Minister Sun was going to advance to Sky Profound stage, and they weren't willing to offend a Sky Profound Overlord. But now, Yi-Ching Luo was blocking in front of them. Those tycoons also started to call out their prices in a probing manner. It was just a Jaw Sticks time, and the price had already reached 57 million. Many of the tycoons were sweating profusely as they looked at the sky, recovering primordial serene grass with extravagant hopes. But the price had exceeded what they could accept. What was left was a stalemate between Prime Minister's son and Yiqing Luo. 60 million. Just 3 words, and one could tell that Prime Minister's son was gritting his teeth. Apparently, the current price had touched his bottom line. 61 million. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she continued to increase the bid by 1 million. The surrounding people were in a flurry of discussion. They were all guessing what was Yiqing Luo's identity. She was actually able to take out so many gold coins without any change in expression. Even if the number 1 tycoon was here, he wouldn't be able to take out 60 million gold coins without any heartache. Did Yiqing Luo really have so much money? There were quite a number of people who were directly betting on the final price of the sky, recovering primordial serene grass. The white-browed elderly held the hammer as he raised his voice. 61 million. Are there any higher bids than 61 million? 61 million going once. 6,000? 65 million. The tensed voice was as though the words were squeezed out from the slits of his teeth. Prime Minister's son's expression was steely green. He clenched his fists tightly as he suppressed his rage. No matter what, he absolutely could not fly into a rage on the spot. Well, he got the sky recovering primordial serene grass and refined the medicinal pill. When he advanced to sky profound stage, he had plenty of ways to make Yiqing Luo live a life worse than death. This time, after hearing Prime Minister's son's bid, Yiqing Luo didn't immediately increase the bid by 1 million. The surrounding crowd guessed that 65 million should be Yiqing Luo's limit. But the next moment, Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly widened as she blinked. Prime Minister's son, you're so rich, 65 million. I'm afraid even the East Continent's treasury doesn't have so much money, right? As far as she knew, the East Wave Continent most likely didn't have the ability to take out 650,000 gold coins at once. Prime Minister's son's offer was even higher than the East Water Continent's national treasury. Obviously, Prime Minister's son was not clean. Everyone also thought of this point when they heard Yiqing Luo's seemingly innocent question. He looked at Prime Minister's son suspiciously. There were also many people from the East Wave continent present. After hearing Yiqing Luo's words, the expression on his face suddenly turned gloomy. No matter how wealthy a prime minister was, it was impossible for him to take out 65 million gold coins in one go. Even the East Water Continent's Jade Dome sect might not be able to afford it. Where did Prime Minister's son get his money from? The answer, even if one used their toes to think, could be guessed. You, where my money came from, has nothing to do with you. Prime Minister's son's face was gloomy as his eyes were filled with malice. He clenched his fists tightly as his other hand wiped the sweat which seeped out from his forehead. Yiqing Luo's long, ending tone dragged out, and oh. Following that, she looked at Prime Minister's son with a beaming smile as she said word by word, 66 million. Chapter 1798. Yiqing Luo. Prime Minister's son couldn't bear it any longer. What on earth do you want to do? Looking at Prime Minister's son's embarrassment turning into anger, unable to maintain the Prime Minister's dignified look, Yiqing Luo's brows curved as she smiled delightfully. What do I want to do? I want the Tianyuan serene grass back. You. Prime Minister's son pointed angrily at Yiqing Luo as he panted in anger. Yiqing Luo spread out her hands as she shrugged her shoulders with a helpless look. Prime Minister's son just has to quarrel with a junior like me. What else can I do? I'm also in despair. Prime Minister's son's dry lips kept trembling. He clutched his chest and gasped for air. Prime Minister's son, do you still want to bid? The white-browed old man interrupted the quarrel between the two guests. As the auctioneer of Jubao Pavilion, looking at this kind of customer who was completely playing with money in order to go against the other party, he loved it the most. But no matter what, that girl seemed to have a good relationship with young Master Shi. Bidding. Of course. Prime Minister's son took a deep breath to calm himself down. The white-browed old man was the chief auctioneer of the treasure-gathering pavilion, and he was also one of the managers of the treasure-gathering pavilion. Naturally, Prime Minister's son did not dare to offend him. 67 million. Prime Minister's son's heart felt as if it was being cut by a knife. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she gave a thumbs up to Prime Minister Sun for being able to persist till now. Was Prime Minister Sun going to use his entire fortune to buy this sky-restoring serene grass? He really went out in a whoosh. Was he certain that he would have the opportunity to break through to the sky profound realm? So, he had already disregarded the consequences and was going all out? 67 million. It wasn't that she was out of money. The money she had was more than enough to deal with Prime Minister Sunday. When DMO Xian gave her the profound phoenix ring, there was a huge pile of coins inside. After that, she went around swindling and abducting people, plus the cooperation with the Mu brothers. He had earned quite a lot of money, although the majority of the coins that she was bidding for were those that DMO Xian had placed in the profound phoenix ring. However, she still felt heartache. After all, when they got married in the future, DMO Xian's money would also belong to her. Now that she was spending so extravagantly, her heart ached for a small amount of money. Cough, cough. Of course, Yiqing Luo totally didn't want to spend 60 to 70 million gold coins to bid for a stock of 1,000-years-old medicinal herb. 10 to 20 million was still within her acceptable range. It would be foolish to buy it at a price several times higher than this price. The only reason why she kept bidding was to annoy Prime Minister Sun. But it seemed that Prime Minister Sun had almost reached his bottom line. If the bidding continued and Prime Minister Sun gave up, she would really feel distressed about her money. Suddenly, the hand around her waist tightened. Yiqing Luo instinctively blurted out, 68 million. The arm around his waist tightened even more. Yiqing Luo was puzzled as she looked sideways at DMO Xian. But DMO Xian's expression was grave and his face was chilly. He made his move. What? DMO Xian hugged her waist, not to let her raise the price, but to remind her. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk as her gaze immediately shot towards Shi Shanglan's cabin. He realized that Shi Shanglan's voice had indeed disappeared. There was no one in that private room. Let's hurry up and catch up. Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to continue bickering with Prime Minister Sun as she anxiously tugged DMO Xian's arm, trying to catch up with Shi Shanglan. Chapter 1799. Yiqing Luo's breathing grew heavier as she tried her best to slow down her breathing. That was right. DMO Xian was right. She was the center of attention. Everyone's gaze was fixed on her. If she leaves, Shi Shanglan would definitely be suspicious. Once Shi Shanglan became suspicious, Xiao, Yi, and Jinzi were probably in danger. She had to believe in DMO Xian to believe in Little Nine. At this moment, Prime Minister Sun's private room was frozen. The butler next to him tried to persuade Prime Minister Sun to give up on the returning sky, serene grass. He was slapped away by Prime Minister Sunday. Now, it was no longer just a problem of a single stalk of herb. He was the Prime Minister of the East Wave continent. If he lost to a 15-year-old girl in terms of money, then he would lose. Wouldn't that be a joke? He had given up on the returning heaven essence, serene grass. There were people from all over the world, from all continents, and from all kinds of forces. In the future, they might laugh at the Sun family. Perhaps they would laugh at the Eastwater continent. More importantly, the news that he was about to step into the profound Sky Supreme realm had already spread. If he could not advance to the Sky Profound realm, the Sun clan had climbed to their current position by stepping on the heads and corpses of many people. Those sworn enemies of the Sun family would definitely not give him the chance to advance to the Sky Profound realm. No matter what, he was determined to obtain the heaven-returning essence, serene grass. Prime Minister Sun's eyes were bloodshot. He clenched his teeth, stood up, and walked to the railing. His hand gripped the railing tightly as he said word by word, 70 million. The auction hall was silent. Everyone turned to look at Prime Minister Sunday. Prime Minister Sun was sweating profusely, breathing heavily, and his face was flushed. Everyone knew that Prime Minister Sun must have taken out his entire fortune to bid for this herb. In order to advance to the Sky Profound realm, Prime Minister Sun was really going all out. The people present were all shrewd people. He also knew that Prime Minister Sun was really angry now. Challenging him at this time would drive Prime Minister Sun crazy. Furthermore, 70 million. That was 70 million. And they were all gold coins. Gold coins. Even if he was a tycoon, he wouldn't be able to take out so many gold coins. Immediately following that, everyone's gazes shot towards Yi Qing Luo's cabin. Unknowingly, Yi Qing Luo had put down the veil, concealing everything in the private room. The whole place fell silent once again. Is he giving up? The white-browed elderly was also looking towards Yi Qing Luo's cabin in astonishment. Yi Qing Luo's bid didn't come even after a long time. Prime Minister Sun's heart was burning with anxiety, and he clenched his fists tightly. Manager of the treasure-gathering pavilion, time has passed. Please drop the hammer. The white-browed elderly looked at Yi Qing Luo's private room for some time before he raised his hammer and shouted, 70 million. 70 million going once. 70 million twice. 70 million. He paused for a moment. The surroundings were still silent. The white-browed old man made the final call. 70 million going thrice. Deal. A silent battle finally came to an end. Everyone sighed. He had not expected Yi Qing Luo to choose to give up the bidding in the end. But it was true. Even if the entire Western continent used their national treasury and Three Springs sect to gather 70 million gold coins, they might not be able to gather that much. Yi Qing Luo was an earth-profound cultivator. She was still 1,000 miles away from the sky, profound realm. There was no need to spend all her fortune to buy this stock of herb. Yi Qing Luo's decision to give up was within everyone's expectations. In the end, Prime Minister Sun obtained the sky returning primordial serene grass at the price of 70 million gold coins. Chapter 1800. His face was ashen and his eyes were gloomy. If it wasn't for the fact that they were still at the Jubao Pavilion's venue, he probably wanted to rush over to Yi Qing Luo's private room and dismember her into 1,000 pieces. Prime Minister Sun tore off the veil angrily. The steward of Jubao Pavilion delivered the heaven-returning serene grass to the private room. He left immediately. He didn't have the slightest interest in any other rare treasures. Even if he was interested, he didn't have any more money to bid. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo's private room. When Prime Minister Sun shouted 70 million gold coins, DMO Xian's arm tightened as he lowered his voice. We're here, let's go. Yi Qing Luo immediately tore off her veil. Where would she find the mood to raise the price with Prime Minister Sunday? Before leaving, DMO Xian flicked his finger lightly. Shi Ruoshi, who had been unconscious, opened her eyes in a daze. Before he could pounce into Yi Qing Luo's arms, his shoulder was pressed down by Yi Qing Luo's arm. Shi Ruoshi's body fell back onto the chair. Little Shi, you have to help me with something. Yi Qing Luo said seriously. Shi Ruoshi's face flushed red as she nodded in a daze. Whatever Sister Qing Luo needs, little Shi will definitely help you settle it. She felt that this kind of sister was so dashing. Xian and I are going out to do something. You stay here and pretend to be me. Yi Qing Luo pointed to the veil at the side. Stand in front of the veil and don't lift it up. If you have nothing to do, raise a sign and shout out a price. WY. Shirowashi was confused. I'll explain it to you when I get back. Only you can help me now. Yi Qing Luo saw the urging in DMO Xian's eyes and whispered to Shiruo, Little Shi, you want me down, right? No, no way. Shirowashi immediately widened her eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, the hands on her shoulders suddenly felt lighter. Yi Qing Luo had already stood up straight as she pulled DMO Xian out of the room quietly. He looked at the empty room. Shirowashi was still in a daze. In his mind, he rearranged what Yi Qing Luo had said earlier. Shirowashi had been by her brother's side since she was a child, dealing with the Shi family's affairs. Naturally, it wasn't as harmless as it seemed on the surface. She quickly understood that Sister Qing Luo definitely had something to settle. Moreover, they couldn't expose that Sister Qing Luo wasn't in the cabin. With that in mind, Shi Ruoshi clenched her fists. This was the first time Sister Qing Luo had entrusted her with a task. She must do it well. After leaving the private room, Yiqing Luo was worried about leaving Shi alone in the private room. After all, Shi Shanglan's spies were all around that private room. What was Shi Shanglan's identity? She had no way of knowing. She could not let Shi get hurt because of her. Yiqing Luo nestled in Mo Xian's arms as he carried her and chased after the nine-tailed fox. Yiqing Luo took out a message shell from the profound phoenix ring. Yiqing Luo had never used this before. After leaving a message in the shell, when Mo Xian passed by Shiruoyu, Yiqing Luo stuffed the shell into Shiruoyu's hand. Shiruoyu was standing backstage, watching the 10th auction item. Suddenly, his body was hit by someone. When he raised his head, he only had time to catch a glimpse of shimmering purple. In his hand, there was a hard object. He frowned as he looked around the surroundings alertly. He didn't detect any abnormality at all. Even the steward beside him had a composed expression as he continued with his work, which meant that someone had bumped into him earlier. Other than him, no one else sensed it. His heart suddenly tightened. Chapter 1801. Jubao Pavilion. In a dark secret room. In the silence, suddenly, a creaking sound came from the only wooden bed in the secret room. Following that, a petite figure sat up. Her soft and powerless hands grabbed the side of the bed, trying to climb down the bed. But she was obviously out of strength. Her hands left the side of the bed. His whole body fell from the bed. With a bang, the door to the secret room was opened. A tall figure slowly walked into the secret room. The scene in the secret room was comical and funny. The girl's upper body was on the ground. Her face was covered in dust and weeds, and her lower body was still hanging on the bed. She heard someone approaching. The girl forced herself to stay conscious and looked over. The candlelight flickered, and it was extremely dark. She could vaguely see 2 feet in front of her, as well as a brown robe. Clouds rolled out of the golden edges of the robe. Her heart trembled, and her lips moved slightly. But she didn't have any strength to make a sound. "Shout, look at you. I'm not by your side, and you torment yourself like this." A gentle voice floated over from above her head. Soon after, the tall figure had already stooped down. 2 thin but powerful arms wrapped around Yin Xiao Yi's slender waist. Yin Xiao Yi's breathing tightened as she tried to struggle, but she felt as if all the strength in her body had been sucked out. She couldn't push away the person who was hugging her. Sensing Yin Xiao Yi's movements, that gentle voice floated over again. "Xiao Yi, it's because I love you too much. You're my fiancé. In your heart, there should only be me." Yin Xiao Yi opened her mouth. She used all her strength to spit out an inaudible breath. "You shameless!" The dim candlelight flickered incessantly. Faintly, it shone on Shi Shanglan's gentle face. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and a warm smile appeared on his face. No matter how one looked at him, he looked like a handsome young master. But when Yin Xiao Yi saw that face, a hint of anger appeared on her face. However, just as she uttered those 3 words, she seemed to have lost all her strength and fell into Shi Shanglan's arms. Shi Shanglan had drugged her. Too despicable. What was Shi Shanglan trying to do? He actually dared to make a move on her in treasure-gathering pavilion's territory. Yin Xiao Yi still remembered it clearly. After she had a chat with Yiqing Luo yesterday, she was determined to try her best to forget the feeling of loving Xiao Jin. She would not do anything. Because she couldn't be with Xiao Jin as an engaged couple, she had to force her brothers to choose between her and Xiao Jin, and so on and so forth. She loved Xiao Jin. He also loved his brothers. Giving up on Xiao Jin didn't mean giving up on those brothers. Yin Xiao Yi had already tried her best to keep the atmosphere between her and Xiao Jin the same as before. However, Xiao Jin's reaction, it still pierced her heart, said to let go. But he was unable to truly let go. She was afraid that she would cry in front of Xiao Jin. He was also afraid of arousing Yiqing Luo and Mo Xian's worries. Therefore, she took the opportunity to blend into the crowd. She only wanted to wait for her emotions to stabilize before returning to their side. But she had just left Yiqing Luo for a short while. Her tears didn't even have time to fall. A pungent fragrance filled her nostrils. She had no time to react before she completely lost consciousness. Chapter 1802. She felt weak all over. Her surroundings were dark. This made Yin Xiaoyi's heart surge with an ominous premonition. Xishanglan's gaze was locked onto Yin Xiaoyi's face. He saw her expression turn serious, nervous, and flustered. He let out a low laugh from his throat. Xiao Yi, don't be so afraid of me. After all, we are engaged. We have to get married. His voice was as gentle as usual. It was like the spring water flowing through her heart. However, Yin Xiao Yi felt an inexplicable chill in her heart. Xishanglan carried Yin Xiao Yi and placed her back on the wooden bed. He sat on the edge of the wooden bed. Yin Xiao Yi, who had just laid on the bed, suddenly tensed up. She stared at Xishanglan warily. Xishanglan's slender fingers gently stroked her fine hair. His fingertips were filled with a strong sense of pity. If Yin Xiao Yi had not kept looking into his eyes, she would have thought that Xishanglan was really in love with her. Xishanglan looked at her and smiled extremely gently. However, Yin Xiao Yi could not see any emotion in his eyes. Right? There was no emotion in Xishanglan's eyes, even though he pretended to be in love. But in the end, that affection was fake. She could tell. Don't look at me like that. I will not be able to control myself. Xishanglan lowered his head gently and kissed her forehead. The man's gentle breath landed on her face. Yin Xiao Yi felt goosebumps all over her face. When he kissed her, she felt a chill run down her spine. Yin Xiao Yi even wanted to vomit. She cursed Xishanglan's entire body in her heart. She did not have the strength to struggle or scold Xishanglan. She could only passively endure Xishanglan's humiliation. She would rather die. Don't worry, I will not touch you for now. Xishanglan naturally felt Yin Xiaoyi's body tensing up. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. His lips moved away from her forehead and landed beside her ear. To be honest, if you're obedient enough, maybe I'll consider letting you truly become my wife. Yin Xiaoyi's body tensed up. She kept shrinking her body and tried her best to avoid Xishanglan's touch. His nearness made her feel disgusted. Become his wife? Spat on his face. But at the next moment, Yin Xiao Yi suddenly realized something. Xishanglan said he would not touch her for now. Then what was Xishanglan's goal? Why did he trap her in this secret room? Recalling yesterday, he specially brought 4 invitations to the main courtyard for Yiqing Luo. Xishanglan's motive was Yiqing Luo. Xishanglan's motive was he wanted to use her to threaten Yiqing Luo. He wanted to use her. She absolutely could not become Yiqing Luo's burden. Yan's mind started to think of over. Yan Hengyi's thoughts. Suddenly, her eyes lit up as she thought of something. She had Hang Lan. Xishanglan carried her by the waist again. Xishang, Yishao Li Li Xian Xishanglan, and Yishao Tian Xiao, Xiao, Yishang Yishat. Yin Yin Xiao Yan's, Yin Yin shivered. Yin Yin Xiao, Yin Yan said. Yin Xiaoyi shuddered. She felt a chill down her spine. In terms of family background, I'm not worse than Xiao Jin. In terms of innate talent, Xiao Jin cannot be compared to me. In terms of looks and temperament, he is incomparable. Xishanglan smiled warmly. As soon as his voice fell, Yin Xiaoyi's body landed heavily on the wooden bed once again. The hard wooden board hit her back. Chapter 1803. Yes, Xiao Jin is inferior to you. Almost using all her strength, Yin Xiao Yi let out a low, hoarse voice in her rage. Although his voice was low, it could be heard in the quiet secret room. But I like Xiao Jin. I just love Xiao Jin. She enunciated each word with great force. Hearing this, Xishanglan's smile became even gentler. His knees were pressed against the side of the bed. He looked down at Yin Xiao Yi, who was lying on the bed without any resistance. Like love? He smiled warmly and said, But Xiao Yi, I am your fiancé. The person you should love is me. A person like you who doesn't even know how to love, and you still want me to love you? Yin Xiao Yi panted lightly, and the words she spat out became increasingly softer. The last 2 words had already become a stream of air. Not a single sound could be heard. Xishanglan's gentle eyes were like a painting. All right, Good girl, don't force me to be too rough with you. Too violent? What did he mean? Well, what did he want to do? A trace of panic flashed across Yin Xiaoyi's eyes. Before she could react, Shi Shanglan's body had already landed on her. Shi Shanglan. The soundless air current chided Shi Shanglan's name. Yin Xiao, he was completely flustered. Didn't he say that he wouldn't touch her for the time being? Yin Xiaoyi's eyes widened, and her breathing quickened in that instant. Shi Shanglan's expression was still gentle, and his smile was still warm. However, his actions were so ruthless that it was nauseating. His large palm caressed Yin Xiaoyi's delicate body wantonly. In the depths of his gentle eyes, a layer of lustful coldness gradually appeared. Even if he had no love for this woman, but with a beauty in his arms, he wanted to tease her. Shi Shanglan could not help but feel excited. His hands caressing Yin Xiaoyi's body became more and more wanton. His hand had just touched Yin Xiaoyi's skin. Yin Xiaoyi's entire body trembled. Her weak and powerless body was also anxiously regaining some strength. He raised his hand and struggled, trying to break free from Shi Shanglan's restraint. However, this made Shi Shanglan even more fearless. Disgusting, what a disgusting feeling. Shi Shanglan actually dared to treat her like this. Yin Xiaoyi's eyes were burning with rage. She didn't want Shi Shanglan to touch her. She absolutely did not want it. Pa! There was a loud noise. Yin Xiaoyi struggled and slapped Shi Shanglan's face. Even though he was drugged, his body was weak and weak. Yin Xiaoyi's slap left a bright red palm print on Shi Shanglan's face. Shi Shanglan, who was on top of her, suddenly stopped moving. Shi Shanglan propped himself up. The gentle expression on his face was already cracked. His face was gloomy, and he touched his cheek with one hand. A pair of eyes that had always been like flowers blooming in spring actually shot out an extremely biting cold intent. Yin Xiaoyi glared at him fearlessly. She couldn't help but sneer inwardly. This is his true face. He was a bloodthirsty, cruel demon. The corners of her mouth curled up, revealing a hint of cruelty in her evil smile. Without waiting for Shi Shanglan to react, Yin Xiaoyi used all her strength to lift her leg and forcefully hit the spot between Shi Shanglan's legs, 3 inches below. Ugh! Shi Shanglan's face turned pale from the pain. Taking this opportunity, Yin Xiaoyi's body rolled. When she rolled to the foot of the bed, she panted heavily and forced herself to run off the bed. However, when her feet stepped on the ground, she had no strength to stand steadily. Her entire body fell onto the ground softly. Yin Xiaoyi turned her head and looked at Shi Shanglan, who had fallen onto the bed and was covering a certain part. Chapter 1804. Bitch! Shi Shanglan gritted his teeth and spat out the word. He endured the pain, jumped down from the bed, and quickly rushed to Yin Xiaoyi's side. This bitch dared to kick him there, and so hard. What kind of humiliation was this to a man? Shi Shanglan bent over and reached out to grab Yin Xiaoyi's hair. Whoosh! A ray of silver light was extremely dazzling under the dim candlelight in the secret room. Shi Shanglan's hand paused, and he quickly rolled to the side. Thump, thump, thump. A few heavy sounds were heard. That silver light pierced into the ground where Shi Shanglan was standing. Those were 3 shiny silver money darts. The darts were so sharp that they almost pierced halfway into the ground. If the 3 money darts had pierced into Shi Shanglan's body, even if he didn't die, he would be half dead. Finally willing to come out, Shi Shanglan propped himself up and looked in the direction where the money darts came from. From a dark corner of the secret room, a slender figure slowly walked out. The green and white uniform wrapped around his tight and muscular body. The dim candlelight shone on the man's extremely ordinary face. I thought you were prepared to watch me sleep with her. Shi Shanglan's expression returned to its usual gentleness, but the tone of his voice was so cold that it could pierce one's bones. Yin Xiaoyi, who was lying on the ground, suddenly trembled. She panted lightly and turned to look at the man standing under the candlelight. His eyes were gradually tainted with a layer of mist. Xiao Jin, it was Xiao Jin. When was he in the secret room? Or had he always been there? Why did he only come out now? She was just just almost F***ed by Xishanglan. He saw it, but didn't show himself. Yin Xiaoyi's heart was in so much pain that she found it hard to breathe. She pursed her lips tightly, and her eyes were filled with coldness. Xishanglan, I gave you a chance. Xiao Jin slowly walked towards Yin Xiaoyi. His expression was solemn. His footsteps stopped beside Yin Xiaoyi. He bent over and wanted to carry Yin Xiaoyi. His hand just touched her body. The woman slapped his hand away. Xiao Jin's hand that was stretched out in midair suddenly froze. He raised his dark eyes and met Yin Xiaoyi's eyes. When he saw the look of despair in her eyes, his heart seemed to be violently strangled by something. Xiao Jin clenched his fists and suppressed the urge to pull her into his embrace. He only silently took out a golden pill and brought it to Yin Xiaoyi's lips. Yin Xiaoyi originally wanted to move her head away, unwilling to have anything to do with Xiao Jin. But when he saw the pill, she held it in, opened her mouth, and swallowed. This was the 100-severing pill which Yiqing Luo had specially refined for all the brothers in the world group. The 100-dispelling pill could cure all kinds of poisons. In a short period of time, one would be immune to all kinds of poisons. This pill was something that the brothers of the world group had prepared with each of them in case they needed it. Just now, Yin Xiaoyi wanted to take the opportunity to take the 100 Solutions pill. She was frightened by Xishanglan's sudden attempt to force himself on her. After taking the 100 dispelling pill, she would be able to get rid of this kind of profound energy which had been dissolved in her body was in a predicament where she didn't have any strength at all. After she regained her strength, then she would be able to rely on herself to leave this godforsaken place. Holding Xiao Jin's hand, after swallowing that 100 dispelling pill, Yin Xiaoyi directly turned her head around and didn't look at him again. Chapter 1805. Xishanglan smiled warmly and said, "You don't have the right to take my life." Xiao Jin's expression darkened, and he raised his arm. A strong, profound energy pulled the 3 gold coin darts out of the ground. Then, it shot straight towards Xishanglan. Xiao Jin's speed was extremely fast as he charged towards Xishanglan. Xishanglan didn't expect that Xiao Jin would dare to fight on his territory. Moreover, the place that was squeezed down by 3 inches was still aching from Yin Xiaoyi's earlier blow. Even when he walked, he felt a sharp pain in his body. Helpless, Xishanglan could only roll on the ground again, quickly rolling to the side to avoid the attack of the gold coin darts. However, Xiao Jin's palm wind had already landed. Xishanglan didn't have time to roll on the ground again. With a loud bang, Xishanglan's chest was hit by this palm. Instantly, a heart-wrenching feeling spread from his chest. Xishanglan groaned in pain, blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth. He quickly retreated a few steps, raising his hand to press on his chest. He fiercely widened his eyes, a sinister and ruthless glint in his eyes. "Guards! Men!" He raised his voice and shouted. The tightly shut door of the secret room suddenly opened. A dozen people dressed in night clothes charged into the secret room with large blades. "Young master!" The night walkers saw the injured Xishanglan and immediately went forward, shielding Xishanglan behind them. "Capture these 2 people. We definitely cannot let them escape." Xishanglan shouted. That face that was warm like jade seemed hideous and terrifying at this moment. The dozen night walkers received the order and instantly attacked Xiao Jin and Yin Xiaoyi in an orderly manner. Those dozen people had clearly gone through special training. Their teamwork was also shockingly terrifying. In just a moment, they surrounded Xiao Jin and Yin Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's expression was grave as he retreated to Yin Xiaoyi's side. "Have you rested well?" Yin Xiaoyi clenched her fists. She felt that her strength, the strength that belonged to her, was quickly returning. The profound heart jade in her heart could also feel the weak light of the profound heart jade. She took a deep breath and stood up with Xiao Jin's hand. "Thank you." The tacit understanding between them didn't require any verbal communication. She took the 100 Solutions pill, then continued to pretend to be weak and fell to the ground. In reality, she was waiting for the 100 dispelling pill to display its full effect to cure the poison in her body and to restore her strength. On the other hand, Qiao Jin was in charge of attracting Shi Shanglan's attention and buying time for her to recover. These people are all at the Earth Profound realm and above. They won't be easy to deal with. Qiao Jin reminded in a low voice. Yin Xiao flipped her palm, and a black scythe appeared in her hand. She gripped her scythe tightly, her eyes filled with fury. Let's see if they're more powerful, or if my black scythe blade is more powerful. With that, Yin Xiaoyi's eyes were filled with killing intent. The scene of Shi Shanglan taking advantage of him filled his mind. She wanted nothing more than to kill Shi Shanglan to vent her anger. Both sides quickly clashed. Yin Xiao was completely enraged. His attacks were extremely ferocious, as if he didn't care about his life. The black scythe blade in his hand flashed with a terrifying aura of death. While Qiao Jin fought against the Night Walkers, he also had to constantly pay attention to Yin Xiaoyi's movements. The current Yin Xiao was in a state of rage. Chapter 1806. The strength of over a dozen Night Walkers was indeed, as Qiao Jin guessed, formidable to the point it made one's hair stand on end. Moreover, that damn tacit understanding. Even if Yin Xiao did not play by the rules when she was enraged, she was still able to make the dozens of Night Walkers guard them tightly. In just a short while, the battle situation of 2 versus 14 high-level profound practitioners had a clear trend. Qiao Jin's side was at an extreme disadvantage. Both of them had dozens of wounds on their bodies. Yin Xiao was tightly held in Qiao Jin's embrace, and the two of them continuously retreated backwards. After a while, the two of them retreated to a corner of the secret chamber. Qiao Jin narrowed his eyes and stared at the door of the secret chamber. In his heart, he was secretly calculating whether he could break through the encirclement of more than 10 Night Walkers and bring Yin Xiao out of the secret room. At the same time, he brandished the coin darts in his hands and continuously shot them at the Night Stalker's weak spot. The black scythe in Yin Xiaoyi's hand did not show any weakness. Every Night Walker that charged forward, Yin Xiao waved the blade of the black scythe, the sharp blade cutting iron like mud. There were already 2 Night Walkers who were attacked by Yin Xiaoyi's black scythe blade. He was immediately cut in half along with his bones. And at the wound cut by the black scythe blade, it would also be surrounded by a ball of black, deathly light. There was no way to stop the bleeding. After fighting for half an hour, the two sides were still in a deadlock. Qiao Jin and Yin Xiao leaned against the wall and looked at them warily. When a Night Walker saw the 2 Night Walkers whose hands and shoulders were cut off and who were unable to stop the bleeding, he was shocked. He did not dare to step forward recklessly. At this moment, Shi Shanglan's pain at the spot 3 inches down had almost disappeared. At this moment, he saw that his men had yet to capture Qiao Jin and Yin Xiao. His heart instantly became restless. Move faster. If the plan fails, I'll hold you responsible. The Night Walkers looked at each other. For today's plan, young master had prepared for such a long time, and they had all seen it. They absolutely did not dare to take the blame for the failure of their plan. Once they took the blame, it would be a life worse than death. The Night Walkers gripped the machetes in their hands tightly and slashed at the 2 of them again. Yin Xiao had just recovered her strength. After another exhausting battle, he no longer had any strength left. Looking at the dozen or so Night Walkers, their attacks became fiercer and fiercer. She gripped the black scythe tightly. Without giving her time to recuperate, she directly faced the attack of the Night Walker. The coin darts in Qiao Jin's hands also rapidly struck the bodies of the Night Walkers the moment she launched her attack. Suddenly, just as Yin Xiao and Qiao Jin were attacking their targets, a lightning-fast figure suddenly appeared among the Night Walkers. She saw a Night Walker raising a machete high up and chopping down towards Yin Xiaoyi's head. Yin Xiao had just waved the black sickle blade and split the Night Walker in front of her. Suddenly, he felt an extremely strong, killing intent coming towards him. She glanced sideways at the machete that was right in front of her. He was startled. There was no chance for him to dodge. She operated her profound Jade Heart and used the power of her profound Jade Heart to immediately form a weak barrier. The machete landed on the barrier. Yin Xiaoyi's heart tightened even more, and she was just about to use her fastest speed to try her best to avoid it. But in the next instant, her body was tightly embraced by a pair of large hands. A chest that was as scorching hot as Xishang Lan's and as broad as Xishang Lan's. But the feeling of nestling in this chest made her feel exceptionally at ease. Ugh! A muffled groan entered her ears. Chapter 1807. Xiao Jin, why did you rush up? Yin Xiao felt something warm and sticky on her hand. Her expression froze as she pursed her pale lips tightly. Nightwalker's machete had landed on Xiao Jin's back. A bright red line of blood seeped out from it. The machete was smeared with poison. Fortunately, Yin Xiao had formed a barrier in a moment of desperation. The barrier blocked the resistance of Nightwalker's machete. Otherwise, this machete could have directly chopped Xiao Jin into two. Xiao Jin leaned on her delicate shoulder as he panted heavily. Black blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth due to the poison invading his body. Are you stupid or what? Do I need you to act like a hero? It's not like I can't avoid it. Yin Xiao felt the weight of the body pressing down on her gradually increase. She also knew that this machete had caused Xiao Jin a heavy injury. The sound of heavy breathing rang in his ears. He let out a low chuckle. Yin Xiaoyi's face was filled with anger from the laughter. She pushed against his chest with both hands and pushed him away forcefully. What time is it now? Can't you? She had yet to finish her words. Her beautiful eyes collided with his ink-black eyes. For a moment, all the sounds were choked in her throat. Xiao Jin's eyes were filled with tenderness. The lips that were overflowing with blood slowly rose into an extremely faint arc. He looked at her. The gentleness in his eyes seemed to only be able to contain her alone. Yin Xiaoyi's heart beat rapidly. She was completely unable to control her wildly beating heart. Why would Xiao Jin show such a gaze to her? This gaze, it was as if she was his entire world. It's good that you're fine. He was still smiling as he spat out each word soundlessly. But Yin Xiao heard extremely clearly. Her beautiful eyes instantly reddened as a thin mist filled her eyes. What exactly did he want? Why, when she had decided to give up on him? He would always use various methods to give her hope, to make her think that he actually loved her very much. Why did he use such a method to stir up her feelings for him again? Large tears gushed out from Yin Xiaoyi's eyes. She could no longer restrain her emotions. Even now, the two of you still have the mood to flirt. Xishang Lan walked out from the group of Nightwalkers. His lips curled up gently, and his eyes were filled with warmth. Xiao Yi, as your fiancé, I can give you another chance. He extended his hand towards Yin Xiao Yi. Come with me. His gentle smile was extremely dazzling. Yin Xiao Yi hugged the man on top of her tightly. She lifted her arm gently, her fingertips brushing past Xiao Jin's thin lips. After that, she and Xiao Jin changed directions. Xiao Jin stood against the wall. She stood in front of Xiao Jin and looked coldly at Xishang Lan. Just as she was about to speak, the man behind her suddenly released her slender waist. The weight on Yin Xiao Yi's body instantly lightened. She frowned and reached out to grab Xiao Jin's wrist. Do you really believe his nonsense? As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Jin's large palm suddenly grabbed her hand. Then he pulled hard. Yin Xiao falls into Xiao Jin's arms. The thick smell of blood could not wash away the unique aura of the man. Yin Xiao Yi's heart violently trembled. She raised her eyes and looked in shock at the face that was right in front of her. An extremely ordinary face, but it was filled with an attractive charm, especially that pair of dark eyes, which made one unable to look away. He did not push her towards Xishang Lan. Ever since Xishang Lan appeared, Xiao Jin had pushed her towards Xishang Lan time and time again. Chapter 1808. This was the first time. Xiao Jin didn't push her to Xishang Lan. If in the past you treated Xiao Yi sincerely, I'm willing to hand Xiao Yi over to you. Xiao Jin's weak voice sounded as though he was barely breathing. He took a deep breath and continued. But now, I can confirm that Xiao Yi will not be happy if she follows you. I will not take Xiao Yi's happiness and bury it in your hands. Saying that, Xiao Jin tightened his grip on Yin Xiao Yi's waist, even though there was a thin layer of clothing between them. Yin Xiao Yi could still clearly feel the boiling temperature from Xiao Jin's palm. Her red lips pursed slightly as her eyelids drooped down as she slowly leaned her head on Xiao Jin's shoulder. Xiao Jin's arms tightened as his ordinary and invincible face was filled with determination. Xishanglan, no matter what, I will not hand Xiao Yi over to you. His words had just ended. The gold coin darts in Xiao Jin's hands were like scattered flowers as they shot towards Xishanglan's direction. At the same time, Yin Xiao Yi, who was leaning on Xiao Jin's shoulder, also flipped over as the black sickle blade in her hands slashed downwards. Xishanglan's reaction was swift as he immediately flipped over to avoid Xiao Jin's attack. But those 10 overnight walkers weren't that lucky. The gold coin darts made a few whooshing sounds as they sank into their vitals, even if there were night walkers who were lucky enough to avoid the gold coin darts. The next moment, it was Yin Xiao Yi's black sickle blade. In just a moment, the entire secret room was dyed red with blood. Go! Xiao Jin shouted in a low voice. Yin Xiao Yi kept her black sickle blade as her petite body suddenly stuffed into Xiao Jin's arms. Xiao Jin tightened his arms as he followed the gold coin darts, which opened up a path as his footsteps expanded. Yiqing Luo's set of footwork immediately made Xiao Jin's figure move strangely as he dashed towards the secret room's entrance. Xiao Jin kicked the door open as he speedily stepped out. Outside the secret room was a dim and long tunnel. Looking over, it was a patch of gray as nothing could be seen clearly. Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao Yi didn't have a chance to think carefully. They could only choose to dash forward. Chase! The 5 night walkers who were still alive held their machetes as they shouted in anger. When the few of them dashed to the entrance, Xishanglan calmly said, "No need to chase. Young master." These brothers were the ones they had trained with since they were young and had gone through life and death situations together. He could only watch helplessly as his brothers died in front of him. How could they not avenge their brothers? They have nowhere to run. Xishanglan narrowed his gentle eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled into an extremely faint smile. That smile was filled with coldness like frost. The anger on the faces of the 5 night walkers slowly faded away. Xiao Jin hugged Yin Xiao Yi and fled to the back of the passageway. He didn't hear any footsteps behind him. Xiao Jinkai released Yin Xiao Yi's waist. When the warmth around her waist disappeared, Yin Xiao Yi felt a sense of discomfort. Her body tensed up as she awkwardly averted her gaze and took a few quick steps forward. Xiao Jin didn't say anything and followed behind her. The two of them were silent for a moment. The atmosphere was inexplicably strange. Yin Xiao Yi couldn't stop her heart from beating violently. She pursed her lips and decided to break the deadlock first. Do you know what this place is? Xishanglan and the others actually didn't catch up. I feel, logically speaking, it was absolutely impossible for Xishanglan to let them escape. Otherwise, he would lose the bargaining chip to threaten Yiqing Luo. One must know that Yiqing Luo had an overlord following beside her. Chapter 1809. There must be a trap somewhere. Xiao Jin's gaze swept the surroundings and slowly followed behind Yin Xiao Yi, saying in a deep voice, "This is the underground passageway of the treasure-gathering pavilion." Treasure-gathering pavilion? Yin Xiao Yi turned back in astonishment. What is the relationship between Xishanglan and Zhu Bao Pavilion? Xiao Jin shook his head. I'm not sure. However, since Xishanglan dared to attack you in the territory of Treasure-Gathering Pavilion and clearly knew about the underground passageway of Treasure-Gathering Pavilion, he definitely has a close relationship with Treasure-Gathering Pavilion. Pausing for a moment, Xiao Jin's expression became somewhat solemn. I guess that Xishanglan is very likely one of the external forces of Treasure-Gathering Pavilion. They were the same as the Shi family. Yin Xiaoyi's expression instantly turned solemn. She clenched her fists and was slightly annoyed with herself. Why didn't she investigate Xishanglan's identity before this? On the contrary, Lan had investigated everything about her clearly. Let's leave the tunnel first. Be careful. There might be assassins lying in ambush at the exit of the tunnel waiting for us. Xiao Jin glanced at Yin Xiaoyi and knew what she was thinking. Yin Xiaoyi responded with a soft and, after taking a few steps, she bit her lower lip. Seemingly hesitating for a long time, she turned her head to look at Xiao Jin. How are your injuries? The poison has already been neutralized. This is just a flesh wound. It's not a big deal. Xiao Jin replied indifferently. Oh, Yin Xiao, he said softly and turned her head away. She didn't continue asking. As mentioned before, each of them had 100 solutions pill on them. Xiao Jin gave Yin Xiao his 100 solutions pill. And just now, Yin Xiao had fed Xiao Jin that 100 solutions pill. Just as Lan mentioned, asking Yin Xiao to leave with him. Yin Xiao took the opportunity to feed the 100 solutions pill into Xiao Jin's mouth. After that, Xiao Jin tightened his grip on Yin Xiaoyi's waist, telling her that the poison in his body had already been cured. After living together for a few years, the tacit understanding between the two of them had reached a point where there was no need for any verbal communication. One look, one movement, they would be able to work together flawlessly. Yin Xiaoyi's mind was filled with random thoughts. Suddenly, a series of orderly footsteps came from the tunnel ahead. The two of them halted their steps. Someone was there. There was someone in the secret passage. Had Lan's men caught up? Go. Let's go first. Xiao Jin pulled Yin Xiaoyi's hand. His broad palm wrapped around Yin Xiaoyi's hand. The two of them turned around and walked back in the direction they had just come from. However, he had only run a few steps. Another wave of orderly footsteps could be heard. There were people at the front and back of the passageway. No matter where they ran, they would die. Yin Xiao looked left and right. What should we do? Can you still fight? Xiao Jin tightened his grip on Yin Xiaoyi's hand, his tone inexplicably strange. Yin Xiao didn't think too much about it. All her attention was on their tightly clasped hands. She nodded and said in a trembling voice, I can still, Xiao-yi. Xiao Jin suddenly called out her name with a serious expression, his voice slightly grave. Yin Xiao-yi raised her head in surprise and looked at Xiao Jin. The dim light illuminated the solemn expression on Xiao Jin's face. Yin Xiaoyi could not help but be solemn and straighten her back. I'm saying if, Xiao Jin's voice was a little gloomy. The Overlord and Qing Luo are not able to rush over in time. I will protect you, even if I have to sacrifice everything. His last few words were spoken in an extremely soft voice. Yin Xiao, he could only vaguely hear something about sacrifice, something about everything. But it was merely these few indistinct words. Chapter 1810. He didn't love her. Why would he spend so much effort to protect her? He even blocked a fatal knife for her. Was it because they had been brothers for so many years? But why was it that she could see such deep feelings in Xiao Jin's eyes? Such feelings really didn't seem like the so-called brotherly love. Don't be in a daze. Xiao Jin pulled Yin Xiaoyi's wrist tightly, suddenly exerting force, pulling her into his embrace. Yin Xiaoyi was startled, her body slightly stiffening. Immediately, the man's warm lips were already pressed against her ear. His low and hoarse voice had a few unique magnetism. Xiao-yi, if we can leave Jubao Pavilion alive today, I have something to say to you. Yin Xiao-yi was startled again, raising her head in a daze, her eyes filled with confusion. She was about to ask Xiao Jin about the meaning of his words. But at this moment, Xiao Jin released her delicate body, only grabbing her hand and fiercely pulling her forward. Let's go. As he turned around, Xiao Jin's face was already flushed. Yin Xiao-yi was still in a daze, her mind filled with Xiao Jin's words. She hadn't finished digesting it. Her body suddenly fell forward. Yin Xiao-yi was unable to stabilize her body, suddenly falling forward. Xiao Jin's reaction was swift, his arms slightly exerting force, pulling Yin Xiao-yi into his embrace. This kind of force caused the two of them to be unable to stabilize their bodies. Xiao Jin's body heavily crashed into the wall at the side. Yin Xiaoyi's entire body was completely wrapped in Xiao Jin's embrace. She wasn't injured at all. When she heard the sound of a man drawing in a breath of cold air from beside her ear, Yin Xiaoyi's heart panicked. She hadn't even opened her mouth to speak. Only a clear creak sound was heard. The wall that Xiao Jin's back had crashed in had suddenly split open into a huge hole. Xiao Jin lost the support of his strength, his body falling into the hole. Together with Yin Xiaoyi, who was in his embrace, they both fell into the hole. Gotcha! Just as the two of them fell into the hole, the wall closed again. The ground inside this hole was a steep slope that slid downwards. Xiao Jin's body had just fallen onto the ground. Like a top, he directly rolled forward a few rounds. Xiao Jin immediately tightened his arms, doing his best to protect Yin Xiaoyi. After about a dozen laps, Xiao Jin's back fiercely collided with something ice-cold. It stopped the two of them from tumbling down. Following Lil Nine's presence, Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo quickly found the underground secret room in Treasure Pavilion. However, there was no one left in the secret room. Yiqing Luo looked at the fresh blood on the ground and the obvious poisonous gas in the air. Her slender brows creased slightly. She stroked Little Nine, who had leapt in her arms, and looked towards Dmo Xian. Ah, Xian, there's indeed Xiao Yi and Jin Zi's aura here, and the aura is rather faint. They should have left the secret room for at least one incense stick of time. The blood on the ground isn't theirs. Dmo Xian narrowed his long and narrow peach blossom eyes. They should have escaped. Let's find them first. There was only one passageway leading to the secret chamber. They had just walked all the way from the tunnel to the secret room. No one was sighing. If Xiao Jin and Yin Xiaoyi escaped from the secret chamber, in this situation where there was only one path, it was impossible to escape. There was only one answer. This was a passageway or a secret room. There were other exits, or other secret passageways. Little Nine, have you remembered the smell of West Shanglan? Yiqing Luo lowered her head and looked at Little Nine, who was in her arms. Little Nine raised its head, and its sharp fox mouth gave off a soft moan. Chapter 1811. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone. Little Nine, lead the way. Once we find Shishanglan, we will be able to find Jin Zi and Xiao Yi. Little Nine leapt down from Yiqing Luo's arms. The two of them followed behind Little Nine and soon stopped at a wall in the passageway. Yiqing Luo held the luminous pearl in her hand, and her half-squinted eyes suddenly fixed on a certain spot on the wall. She leaned closer, and her fingertips touched the wall. Jin Zi's blood. Her expression sunk slightly. This blood was sticky. Apparently, it had just been printed not long ago. Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao, you should be nearby. Jin Zi is poisoned. Yiqing Luo was very sensitive towards poisonous gas, and very quickly she sniffed out the faint poisonous gas in the blood. Although it was very faint, but this smell had already automatically broken down in Yiqing Luo's mind through the 100 refining pill. Luckily, she had foresight. When she was refining the pills, she had given each of them 100 refining pill to be able to escape from the secret room and escape to the passageway. They should be fine for now. She must find them immediately. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo's petite body suddenly stiffened as the expression on her face revealed a sliver of disbelief. What's the matter? Dmo Xian sensed Yiqing Luo's reaction. Yiqing Luo looked at the blood on her fingers. This poison is not Nirvana Realm's poison. The medicinal herb composition, which was analyzed by the 100 refining pill, could not possibly be wrong. The 100 refining pill clearly told her about it. This poison was known as the parting calamity pill. As the name suggested, after being tainted within a short 1 hour, the life star would perish. This was an extremely vicious poison, and the medicinal herbs used to refine this poison could not be found in Nirvana Realm. At least, Yiqing Luo had never seen or heard of the medicinal herbs used to refine it. If it's not Nirvana Realm's poison, could it be? Dmo Xian's expression suddenly congealed. Do you know the name of the poison which Xiao Jin was inflicted with? Parting calamity pill. Yiqing Luo replied. Do you know the source of this poison? Parting calamity pill. DMO Xian repeated these 3 words as his gaze dimmed. Lil Luo, if my guess is right. This matter, I'm afraid, might be a little tricky. Some forces outside the Nirvana realm have intervened in this matter. Yiqing Luo quickly came to a conclusion. As far as she knew, the Nirvana realm was one of the lowest realms in this vast space. Except for the upper realm, there were also the various powers outside the 3 realms. For example, the dark forces. Compared to the Nirvana realm, those forces were all outstanding existences. Apart from an underground organization, there were actually other forces that had extended their claws to the Nirvana realm. Why does it feel like the current Nirvana realm was becoming more and more chaotic? Remember, stay close. DMO Xian suddenly stretched out his long arm and clasped Yiqing Luo's waist tightly. This sentence, remember it. Yes, 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 I will definitely not leave you. Yiqing Luo hugged his waist. With a big Buddha like you around, even if other forces would intervene, I'm not worried at all. DMO Xian rubbed her head and pressed down hard as if he was threatening her. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and grabbed the mischievous hand on her head as she lightly patted the back of his hand. All right, now you know the seriousness of this matter. Let's first find Jin Zi and Xiao Yi. Following that, she shot her gaze towards Little Nine. Little Nine, why aren't we moving? Little Nine squatted on the ground, and it had transformed into a small fox, swinging its 9 tails, looked extremely adorable. Chapter 1812. The smell stopped? Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian exchanged glances. It's impossible for the scent to stop midway, unless he disappeared here. Yiqing Luo looked at the direction of the blood stains on the wall. Suddenly, he exerted force and pushed against the wall. Kacha, a sound was heard. A hole suddenly appeared in the wall. There really is a secret passage. Yiqing Luo frowned. DMO Xian's gaze swept across the dark passage. Follow me closely. He took the lead to enter the cave, and after ascertaining the safety inside, he stretched out his hand towards Yiqing Luo. Give me your hand. This man, he really took care of her meticulously. Stretching her hand into DMO Xian's palm, she bent down and followed into the secret passage. Just as the tunnel was about to close up, a slender figure walked out from the darkness. The brown luxurious robe was warm and elegant. Wasn't it Xishang Lan? Behind him was the skinny old man called Wu Sha. Young master, they have already entered the soulless formation. Our plan will succeed soon. Wu Sha's face was filled with joy as he congratulated Xishang Lan sincerely. Xishang Lan's smile did not diminish. It was still warm. Wu Sha suddenly thought of something, and a worried look appeared on his face. But Overlord followed him into the godless formation. I'm worried. With Overlord's strength, he might... Impudent. Xishang Lan's smile froze, and he berated in a stern voice. He turned around and slapped Wu Sha's face. That gentle face was covered with a layer of greed and malevolence. The godless array formation is the strongest array formation of our godless island. Even if the people from the upper realm came, they would not be able to break through the godless array formation. What does 1D emotion amount to? Wu Sha lowered his head. His tiny eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a trace of sinister treachery. Xishang Lan looked coldly in the direction of the secret tunnel and snorted. Now, we just have to wait for the prey to fall into the trap. Yes, young master. Wu Sha answered obediently. The two of them slowly walked to the wall and gently pressed it. The entrance of the secret passage was wide open, and the two of them stepped into it one after the other. Yiqing Luo held DMO Xian's hand tightly as the luminous pearl illuminated everything in the secret passage clearly. The two of them walked extremely slowly on the steep slope. Yiqing Luo discovered Xiao Jin's blood stains on the ground once again. Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao indeed entered this secret passage. Just what kind of place was this treasure-gathering pavilion? It was an underground tunnel with a hidden passage. They walked all the way to the bottom of the slope. There was no other way out. Although it was said that there was no way out, it was actually not that there was no way out. In front of him, he was blocked by a stone wall that could fit a person. The stone wall was covered with a layer of white light. The white light completely enveloped the stone wall. But when Yiqing Luo touched it, it was a real stone wall. What's going on? Yiqing Luo withdrew her hand and looked at Dmo Xian in puzzlement. Xiao Jin's bloodstains also disappeared beside this stone wall. She was sure Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao had entered this secret passage before, and now they didn't see Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao, which meant that there must be a path to head towards here. This stone wall, which was emitting white light, should be the key. Dmo Xian narrowed his peach blossom eyes as he carefully sized up this stone wall. In his subconscious, he sensed an ominous premonition. This stone wall in front of him gave him an extremely uneasy feeling. But seeing Yiqing Luo's worry towards Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao. Chapter 1813. He was clearer than anyone else about Yiqing Luo's character. If you were to let Yiqing Luo leave now, or use forceful methods to bring her away, it would only attract a bigger backlash from Yiqing Luo. Although Yiqing Luo wouldn't get into a conflict with him because of his brother's matters, but to put her in a difficult position and make her sad, he couldn't do it. The girl he fell in love with was loyal and affectionate. It was absolutely not to protect his own life, but to give up the chance to save his brother. Dmo Xian stretched out his hand and held Yiqing Luo's little hand tightly. His obsidian-like peach blossom eyes gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo's face. He lowered his head, and his lips gently landed on her forehead. The scorching breath was a little heavy. She understood Dmo Xian, just like how Dmo Xian understood her. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the strong pressure emitted from Dmo Xian. Her heart trembled slightly as a sense of uneasiness arose from the bottom of her heart. This place was very dangerous. Dmo Xian had already sensed the danger here. To be able to make Dmo Xian feel the danger and become serious, it was enough to prove that the hidden danger in this secret tunnel was beyond her imagination. Even Dmo Xian felt the danger. Then wouldn't Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao be? Don't be afraid. I'm here. Dmo Xian's gentle kiss gently rubbed against her disgust. His slender fingers clasped her little hand tightly. 10 fingers intertwined. His warm breath sprayed onto her face. He firmly and gently repeated, "I will bring the 3 of you back safely." Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. Her slightly creased brows were smoothed by his gentle lips. His firm voice made her uneasy heart gradually calm down. She stretched out her hand and looped it around his firm waist. Her elegant voice was filled with emotions. "Xian, I know that this request is very capricious, but to give up on saving them and leave with you alone, I really can't do it." She buried her head into his arms. "I've understood a logic since young. Living in this world, only oneself is the most reliable. No matter what, I'm used to relying on my own strength to achieve whatever goals I want to achieve, and have never thought of relying on anyone." She paused for a moment. Following that, she raised her head and fixed her gaze on Dmo Xian. "But ever since I met Xian, I'm getting more and more used to relying on you. As long as you're around, I'm not afraid of anything, and I'm full of confidence in everything." A warm smile appeared on her face. A bright smile bloomed at the corner of her mouth. "Xian promised me, not only will I, Xiao Yi, and Jin Zi be safe, you must be safe as well." The tenderness in the young lady's gaze made Dmo Xian's heart flutter. He clasped Yiqing Luo's lower jaw as he lowered his head and kissed her pink lips. This kiss was gentle with a bit of roughness, deeply absorbing the sweetness in Yiqing Luo's mouth. This kiss, Yiqing Luo's hands tightly circled around his waist as her body turned soft. Dmo Xian released her lips, and his breathing was heavy. "The rest, will go back and ask for it." She panted, and with a weak and soft voice, she softly spat out a word, "All right." Dmo Xian held her tightly. After a while, when Yiqing Luo's consciousness recovered, Dmo Xian was about to release his profound qi to forcefully enter the stone wall, which was enveloped in white light. Suddenly, a gentle laughter came from afar. "Ha ha ha. Even at death's door, you're still so affectionate. You're really worthy of being the Overlord and the rumored heroine. When the voice entered her ears, Yiqing Luo's slightly blurred eyes suddenly became clear. Chapter 1814. Lan. When Yiqing Luo saw who it was, her gaze turned piercingly cold. Where are Jinzi and Xiao Yi? Lan smiled warmly. Qing Luo, don't be so anxious. He was smiling. His smile was as gentle as usual. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly. Lan, there are no outsiders here and no devil classes students. You don't need to put on an act in front of me. Lan smiled. It made Yiqing Luo's brows crease tightly. She hated Lan's smile, and hated Lan's smile. It was this gentle gentleman's mask, attracting the group of youths in devil class who were ignorant of the ways of the world, deceiving the feelings of devil class's students. Yeah, I thought my disguise was flawless. Lan pretended to be surprised as his eyes were filled with a gentle smile. I've been wearing this mask for so long. I almost thought that I have such a character. Speaking of this, as long as I use this face, this mask, I can easily play those brothers of yours in the palm of my hand. He touched his own face as his smile became even gentler. This face is rather useful. Yiqing Luo's brows tightened. He didn't say this matter was good. The moment he said it, Yiqing Luo had the urge to beat him up, as though he sensed the change in Yiqing Luo's emotions. Lan's gentle smile deepened. Since Qing Luo had already seen through my disguise, based on Qing Luo's position in that bunch of fools' hearts, they should choose to believe you. Isn't that so? These words were said in a weird tone, filled with insolence. Apparently, the meaning behind Lan's words. He was ridiculing Yiqing Luo that she wasn't as popular as she thought she was. He was ridiculing that even if she really told those youngsters in devil class about his suspicions, those people might not trust her. He was flaunting his position in the hearts of devil class's students. Even if she was Yiqing Luo, the mental pillar of devil class. Wasn't Yin Xiao Yi a living example? Yiqing Luo's brows turned slightly cold. Her eyes were filled with a vicious aura. She wasn't angry about what Lan said. Devil class's students wouldn't trust her or something. It was the word fool that Lan said. Lan saw Yiqing Luo's expression turning gloomier and gloomier. An insolent smile that was completely different from the gentle, jade-like smile appeared on his face. However, in the next instant, suddenly, a slap landed on his face. Pa! The crisp sound of the slap was extremely loud in the quiet secret passage, and it even echoed in the air. A bright red palm print appeared on Lan's pale face. The burning pain caused Lan to open his mouth and curse loudly. Even his muscles were in extreme pain. How dare you? Wuxia finally reacted and leaped in front of Lan. But he discovered that Yiqing Luo had already returned to the Xian's side. It was as if he hadn't moved at all. But Yiqing Luo's waving hand and her pitiful look towards Xian had exposed the fact that she had slapped Lan earlier. Xian, he's so thick-skinned. My hand hurts. Xian held her little hand and gently caressed it. I helped you peel off his face. Yiqing Luo smiled brightly as she nodded her head vigorously. A crack appeared on Lan's gentle mask. Chapter 1815. Yiqing Luo curled her lips and smiled. No, I'm only warning you once. If you dare to verbally abuse my brother, the next time, it won't be as simple as a slap. You. Lan grimaced in pain. Blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. It could be seen how much strength Yiqing Luo had used in that slap earlier. He was right. Yiqing Luo had used her real strength. There was not the slightest bit of profound qi mixed in. This kind of slap was a bone-piercing pain. Don't get too full of yourself. The students of devil class are just too young and don't know how sinister the human heart is. But it doesn't mean that just because you treat them a little better, they will repay you wholeheartedly. I won't tell them that my suspicion of you isn't because I'm afraid that they'll stand on your side, not trust me, or have a conflict with me. But I'm just using you to tell those young kids in devil class What is called a human heart is unpredictable. What is called a human heart is sinister. Humans had to experience pain and fall once before they would learn from their mistakes. Moreover, people needed to experience some things for themselves to understand some principles. Since Shi Shanglan wanted to make use of the students of the devil class, then Shi Shanglan would make use of him. Once Shi Shanglan's true colors were exposed, these students would understand that not everyone was trustworthy. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, Shi Shanglan only felt that his pride had been ruthlessly trampled on. He had always thought that his plan was flawless. No one could see through his acting skills. He used his gentleness to surround those who trusted him wholeheartedly. Then he would make use of those idiots whom Yi Qing Luo valued to deal with her. But when he realized that all his assumptions were just self-righteous, the pride in Shi Shanglan's heart was shattered. He clenched his fists, suppressing the anger surging in his chest. He knew Yi Qing Luo's ability. He also knew how powerful Dmo Xian was. Appearing here was merely to see Yi Qing Luo pleading bitterly because Qiao Jin and Yin Xiao were in his hands. But he had not expected that he was so infuriated by Yi Qing Luo that he almost threw up blood. Shi Shanglan clenched his fist. He had always been good at scheming. He had always been able to calculate everything in an orderly manner. There was no way he would lose to a 15-year-old girl. Yi Qing Luo, you have the time to bicker with me, but I think your two brothers probably don't have that much time to wait for you. Shi Shanglan raised his hand to wipe off the blood on the corner of his lips as he stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo, sneering endlessly. As expected, Yi Qing Luo's face sunk. Shi Shanglan, I don't care who you are or whether the force behind you is from outside the Nirvana realm. I only want to tell you one thing. Her eyes were filled with a piercingly cold light. If Xiao, Yi, and Jin Zi are heavily injured, I will uproot you and the power behind you. She enunciated each and every word clearly. The viciousness in her eyes was very obvious. That gaze caused Shi Shanglan's heart to contract. Not waiting for him to retaliate, Yi Qing Luo's extremely cold voice was heard once again. Don't doubt whether I have that ability or not. I have a way to exterminate the dark forces. You, Shi Shanglan, I can do the same. After finishing this sentence, Yi Qing Luo no longer had the intention to tangle with Shi Shanglan. She didn't need to find out the whereabouts of Yin, Xiao, Yi, and Qiao Jin from Shi Shanglan. Chapter 1816. Shi Shanglan was right about one thing. Qiao Jin and Yin Xiao, he probably didn't have time to wait for her. She couldn't waste any more time on a useless Shi Shanglan. Dmo Xian unleashed his profound energy. Their fingers intertwined. The white glow instantly enveloped the both of them. Immediately following that, Dmo Xian and Yi Qing Luo stepped into the stone wall. Slut! Shi Shanglan stared at the stone wall viciously as he clenched his fists tightly. This young patriarch wants to see what ability you have after entering the godless array to destroy this young patriarch's forces. Wu Sha shot a glance at his young patriarch, who was in a frenzy, and immediately lowered his head. The expression on his face was somewhat solemn. His young master could be said to be resourceful and shrewd. But why was it that in front of Yi Qing Luo, he was so easily angered? And what made Wu Sha even more shocked was, that was Yi Qing Luo's ability. Recalling the last time, which was when Yi Qing Luo just entered Heavenly Academy, the three of them were in Heavenly Academy's backyard, trying to snatch Yi Qing Luo's profound phoenix ring. Yi Qing Luo's profound grade was obviously extremely low. The last time they failed in Yi Qing Luo's hands. That was because they didn't know Yi Qing Luo well, hence they didn't know about her martial arts and strange movements. And they felt another person's presence. Thinking of that person, a strange expression appeared on Wu Sha's face, but quickly returned to normal. And this time round, when Yi Qing Luo slapped Shi Shanglan, he hadn't reacted in time. Yi Qing Luo had already completed her action and returned to her original position. It could be seen that this young lady who could use her own ability to seal the King of Darkness's consciousness completely. It wasn't just because of good luck. The uneasiness in Wu Sha's heart was magnified once again. After passing through the stone wall, Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly widened. Because the scene in front of her eyes, she didn't know how to describe her feelings right now. In front of her was a stretch of tall buildings, people and cars. Her ears were ringing with various car horns which she hadn't heard for a long, long time. She was now standing in the 21st century, the era which belonged to her. How was this possible? How did she return to the 21st century? Lil Luo, what's the matter? The man in front sensed the change in Yiqing Luo's emotions as he slowly turned his head back. He had a peerless face and a gentle smile. Dressed in a purple robe, he stood on the streets of the 21st century. It was so intoxicating. Yiqing Luo's heart was unable to conceal the agitation in her heart as she clenched tightly onto Mo Xian's tightly intertwined hands. Ah Xian, do you know where this place is? Mo Xian smiled slightly, very unfamiliar and very surprised, but little Luo looks very happy. Yes, I'm very happy. Yiqing Luo's voice was trembling. She held Mo Xian's hand tightly as her face was filled with joy. Ah Xian, do you know this is my hometown? I was born here and grew up here. Yiqing Luo didn't want to hide her real identity from Mo Xian. Although to her, she had completely treated herself as Nirvana Realm's Yiqing Luo. But when she stood in front of the familiar 21st century, she then realized that she was ultimately not that Nirvana Realm's Yiqing Luo. Mo Xian laughed lightly as he stretched out his hand to pull her into his embrace. Your hometown? Then you should bring me around. I want to see the place where Lil Luo grew up. His voice was extremely gentle. Yiqing Luo felt an indescribable strangeness. She wanted to raise her head to look at Mo Xian's expression. Chapter 1817. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo whispered softly and wanted to raise her head. But the moment she moved, the palm on the back of her head exerted more force. The strange feeling in Yiqing Luo's heart continued to magnify. Just as Yiqing Luo wanted to resist Mo Xian, above her head floated his mellow voice. Little Luo, this is the place where you grew up. I'm so excited. His voice was slightly trembling. The hand holding her body gradually tightened. The familiar sandalwood smell lingered in her nose. The strange feeling in Yiqing Luo's heart gradually dispersed. That was right. This place was an extremely unfamiliar place to the ancient Mo Xian, and it was the place where she grew up. Mo Xian's mood had such a huge change, which was a matter of course. But Yiqing Luo, who was buried in the man's arms, did not see it. The peerless man on top of her head had a gentle smile on his face, but it did not reach his eyes. That shimmering peach blossom eyes flashed with a horrifying cold glint. Faintly, there was a bit of red glow. All of a sudden, 8 spider-like black tentacles extended from his body. The tentacles bared their fangs and brandished their claws towards the young lady in his arms. The red glow in his eyes became more and more dazzling. It made those peach blossom eyes look extremely demonic. The black tentacles seemed to want to imprison Yiqing Luo and send her body towards Mo Xian's chest. At this moment, Mo Xian's body was like melting mud, as Yiqing Luo in his arms slowly merged into his body, and the young lady nestled in Mo Xian's arms. But she was totally unaware of all these. The 8 black tentacles, bit by bit, tried to enter Yiqing Luo's body, just as the tentacles were 1 centimeter away from her back. Yiqing Luo's body, suddenly a ray of red glow appeared. The tentacles were fiercely bounced back. Mo Xian's body swayed slightly as his body became tense. Ah Xian, what's the matter? Yiqing Luo didn't know what happened. She didn't notice the change in this Mo Xian. She only suddenly sensed that Mo Xian's body was slightly stiff. Mo Xian's eyes were filled with malevolence as he glared fiercely at the young lady in his arms. When the girl broke free from his grip and forcibly raised her head, she suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. Mo Xian's reddened eyes swiftly reverted back to the pitch-black obsidian color. The 8 feelers also retracted in an instant. Ah, Xian, are you not used to this place? Yiqing Luo raised her hand, wanting to caress Dmo Xian's face. There was a lot of sweat on his forehead. Dmo Xian hurriedly avoided her hand and released her delicate body. No, nothing, Lilo. First bring me to the place where you used to stay to take a look. Yiqing Luo's hand froze in midair, slightly stunned. Ah, Xian would never avoid her touch. Little Luo, seeing that she was standing at the same spot, not moving for a long time, Dmo Xian stood in front of Yiqing Luo, raised his hand and grabbed her wrist. Under his tugging, Yiqing Luo took a few steps forward. Her gaze fell on the hand on her wrist. Warm palms, slender fingers. Very familiar, it was the big palm in her memory. But Yiqing Luo faintly sensed something strange. But the source of this strange feeling, she had no way of knowing. The person in front of her shouldn't be the fake Dmo Xian, right? Chapter 1818. No, that's not right. From a moment, they passed through the stone wall that was flickering with white light. Dmo Xian was worried that they would be separated. He intertwined his fingers and held her tightly in his hands. Until the 21st century, their hands had never parted. She was very confident in her perception. If this Dmo Xian was a fake, she must be able to sense it. But the person in front of him, whether it was his appearance or the aura he emitted, was very familiar. Dmo Xian. How could he be a fake? His heart was in a mess. Dong. Yiqing Luo's face crashed heavily onto the man's hard chest. She covered her nose in pain and looked up at him. Dmo Xian had unknowingly stopped his footsteps. He slightly furrowed his brows and looked at her face with a slightly heavy gaze. His tone was somewhat steady. Lil Luo, do you not wish for me to know about your past life? Yiqing Luo's hand that was covering her nose paused. Her eyes met his. There was a faint suspicion in his heart. When she met his gaze, she inexplicably wanted to believe him. How could that be? Yiqing Luo stabilized her state of mind as she smiled. All along, I wanted to bring you to the place where I used to live, but I've never had the chance. Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes rippled. The ripples were like a huge net that could capture one's soul. Layers upon layers, enveloping Yiqing Luo's heart. But your expression tells me that you don't want me to appear here. His slender fingers gently caressed Yiqing Luo's forehead. A warm touch brushed across the skin of her face. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly as she shrunk back unnaturally, avoiding his fingertips' touch. I didn't. Dmo Xian sighed softly. Lil Luo, you know that I can't bear to make things difficult for you. If you're unwilling, I won't force you. No, it's not like that. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes, not knowing how to express her feelings at this moment. How was she going to tell Dmo Xian that she had just suspected that he was a fake Dmo Xian? Under the current situation, Dmo Xian was obviously a little angry. If she mentioned her suspicions about him again, wouldn't that be adding fuel to the fire? Seeing Yiqing Luo lowering her head, Dmo Xian's glistening pupils gradually turned gloomy. Inside its body, those 8 black tentacles were stirring, trying to entangle Yiqing Luo tightly. Dmo Xian restrained his agitation and maintained his calm tone. All right, I'll stop teasing you. It's rare to see Lil Luo, Er's hometown. Let's take a look around first. The girl in his arms suddenly stiffened. After that, the young girl raised her head. Xian, do you know where this place is? Dmo Xian smiled faintly. Little Luo, Er's hometown. Yiqing Luo nodded. Then do you still remember why we returned to my hometown from Nirvana Realm? The gentle smile on Dmo Xian's face froze. Of course I remember. You don't know? Or have you forgotten? Hearing Dmo Xian hemming and hawing, Yiqing Luo's lips suddenly curled upwards, revealing a sly smile. Immediately after, Dmo Xian felt his arms lightened and the warmth attached to his chest dissipated at this moment. The young girl in his arms unknowingly broke free from the restraint of his arms.